What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical, everybody. Thanks for coming and joining. We are back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. It feels like it's been a while since we've done just a regular good old Tactical Tuesday and talked about some freaking lists and stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at lists over the last week, and I'm excited for it. So there you go. It looks like my chat bot is broken. That's unfortunate. I think that happens when I schedule multiple streams. Now that I'm looking at it, because that seems to be the pattern. Silly chat thing. Chat display, so I apologize to everybody who's watching this after the fact. You're gonna have to look at the chat on the live feed, I guess, if you want to take a look at it. It's Turvagon Tuesday, is it? Is it Turvagon Tuesday? We'll see. How's it going, everybody? Nurgle Matt's in chat. Yeah, like or sub, would really appreciate that. That would be great. Well, I just got over, I've been working all day on a new video. We're going to be talking about some Space Marines in the next video. I think that'll be up tomorrow, but I hope y'all like that one. I hope y'all like and subscribe for that video, because it has taken a while, but it'll be good. Yeah, lots of interesting trends to talk about today. We have, I'm coming off of lots of invitational streaming yesterday. So Monday, I streamed a ton. I got up at bright and early at like 6 a.m. to stream a game, and then had another one a couple hours after that. So I hope y'all are enjoying the invitational coverage. The games have been absolutely sick so far. We have a bunch scheduled this weekend, one on Friday, and then kind of back-to-back Saturday night and going into Sunday morning. So if you're in like an Australian time zone, I think we're here for you, because we have perfect times for that. But otherwise, if you're just looking for something to watch Saturday night, we'll have a bunch of 40k games going on. So that's going to be sick. Round of 8 will conclude this weekend, and then the players will have a break. Round of 4 will start on Saturday. We'll have 2 games on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, to conclude the invitational. But yeah, it's been incredible so far. The lists have been sweet. We've got some like real interesting lists that are going undefeated, which I'm sure you're pretty excited about. So yeah, let's these Necron Catan, I'm crossing my fingers they can go all the way, because that list is super cool. Are we looking at any guard or knight lists today? All right, so I haven't looked at the lists in depth yet, chat. I took a very, very quick look at them, but that was it. So there may be some surprises. I would steel yourself for somehow a lot of Chaos Knights, or a reasonable amount of Chaos Knights, and some Dark Angels. A lot of Dark Angels talk about Chaos Demons, that kind of stuff, But we have a couple interesting ones in there. Anyway, let's hop over and let's freaking do this list thing, everybody. Whoa. So we'll start down at Beachhead Brawl. This is the big one this weekend over in the UK. This was about 200 players, if I remember correctly. I wonder if I can find the BCP listing. Beachhead Brawl. I don't know if they have it on BCP here, or a link to the BCP. But I think, yeah, it says 200 on Facebook, so we'll go with that. I sometimes I do chat, and I do find that it's helpful when I get the time to look to like really take notes and on everything on the list. Like sometimes I'll take down pages of notes on the stuff beforehand, but sometimes I literally just don't have the time. And unfortunately today, I was working on videos all day, so that was unfortunate. Exclamation point lists. It's literally just went in chat. Vidar Thornsby. It's there already, but also, yeah, there you go. All right, yeah, we can talk about Beachhead Brawl. We have a little bit of an introduction from Leagues of Votann. Interestingly, Leagues of Votann didn't have a terrible weekend. Ooh, looks like we got a copied list there. That's awkward. Leagues of Votann didn't have a terrible showing. We had a couple X and 1 Leagues of Votann, which is, for what is ostensibly the worst performing army in the game. And I wonder if we have an update on the stat check. I can't imagine that we do this early, right? But the last stats had the stat check at... No, we don't. Not yet. Leagues of Votann at 38%. So basically, like, almost in line with Blood Angels and Tyranids for worst army in the game. But they've been doing pretty well. And Blood Angels also had a pretty good weekend. So I do wonder if the current statistics that are relatively low sample size right now with just a couple hundred games in for most of the factions, even the highest, the most played factions, are a little bit... You know, maybe you're not entirely correct because, yeah, anyway, we have a lot of X and 1 Votann. We have an undefeated Blood Angels as well, which is amazing. So, we got some Ymir Conglomerate going on. Brokir Forge Master to begin with. Master Armor. Shocker, what a surprise. A high call, even, whoa, with Grudge's End. Insane. And a long list, so he can continuously drop Judgment tokens on people, use Grudge's End to ignore cover and snipe characters. He's got a teleport crest. I mean, it's sort of normal stuff. We do have a reappearance of Hearthkin Warriors, a 5-er with a Magna Rail Rifle and a Medipack to regen that guy. 165 points for Hearthkin Warriors, man. Oof. That is a pretty penny for those guys. A little smattering of Berserk. So we got a Berserk unit with a Mole Launcher, and then 7 Hearthguard with Warp Strike, and then here come the Hernkin Pioneers. Looks like 3 of 3. Hernkin Pioneers with rotary cannons. Interestingly, Thunderkin with Graviton Blast. Thunderkin were I think they were one of the only models that have been relatively untouched by points increases. And I have a sneaking suspicion that I don't think I would like spam Thunderkin because they feel very kind of, they're one-dimensional, right? They're like Devastators that don't get melee weapons, you know. But the amount of firepower that they put out for 35 points a model is pretty comparable to solid heavy weapons in most other factions. Let's take a quick look at the Thunderkin data sheet real quick here. I think I wasn't sure where to put them when the Codex first released, but now given the fact that they are basically the only untouched model. So they're firing D6 Strength 5, AP 3, 2 damage, and they go to 3 damage against 3+ save or better. So actually a pretty good include if you're talking about like Dark Angels Terminators, right? You're shooting at these big Terminator bricks. You're shooting D6 shots a piece, min 3. So you probably average 11 or 12 shots. Most likely auto-wounding on 4s because that unit is going to accrue Judgment tokens immediately. And then even if you're not, you're just wounding normally on 4s. The transhuman effect only ends up being a net -1 to wound. And then that's all 3 damage. So if they don't have their Apothecary or they fluff out on their, what do you call it? Their Apothecary rolls, their Selfless Healer rolls, then they just die on a failed saving throw. And AP3 puts them at their invulnerable save. So this is like it's a very pointed anti-Terminator gun for sure. You can also take the conversion beamers on them, which is a little bit interesting in Ymir Conglomerate because you get access to the beam strat where you can do mortal wounds in addition. But that requires you to be far away from people, and that one's a little bit tough. Plus, it's only 1 shot a piece, so it's like really high variance. I don't know if I love that, especially because it costs a little bit extra. They ignore dense cover as well. So for 35 points a model, it's not the worst profile in the world. D6 damage, 3 damage shots is like, that's something. That's something. Hecaton Land Fortresses, 2 of them with SP conversion beamers. Normal stuff, I think. One of them does have a rail cannon, actually. So you want the single conversion beamer for the Ymir stratagem, but the rail cannon, I mean, is good. Ignoring invulnerable saves is really solid right now, and especially if you can get the carryover damage, it's very good against the Marines and stuff. We have a bunch of Dark Angels to talk about. We can sort of talk very quickly about the Dark Angels. There are some lists that are a little bit different for the different Dark Angel varieties. For the most part, they end up being kind of the same. This one's running Azrael, which is interesting. A Primaris Bike Chaplain and an Arbiter's Gaze Talon Master, so he always hits on 2s. 2 Infiltrator Squads. It's only 1 Deathwing brick, and then 2 Black Knights. These are good outlets for weapons of the Dark Age, because you can get their plasma guns to 3 damage. But we don't... I guess we have Azrael so he can point rerolls at them as well, because he's the real Chapter Master. He's not just a Ravenwing Chapter Master. And then 3 units of attack bikes, 2 Landspeeder Vengeances. So the big benefit here is that we can sit in Devastator Doctrine all game, so the Black Knights get their movement bonus. So they get advance and shoot and move extra distance. Same with all the attack bikes and the Ravenwing Landspeeders. And then the Deathwing Terminator just sort of tank. I think the 1 unit of Deathwing Terminators, the downside is that the Black Knight squads aren't like quite... They're sort of sticky to kill with guns, but they're not quite survivable enough that if you shoot them with enough stuff, they just don't die. So if your opponent's able to deal with the Deathwing Terminators, having 1 unit means you kind of lose control of the center. And that can be problematic, although your shooting's much better than if you had multiple Deathwing Terminator units. But I think for the most part, what we're going to be seeing is double Deathwing Terminators. Yeah, that's what we see from Manichima. He's actually running 3, 2.5, it looks like. Yeah, 1 of 5, 2 of 10. That's a little bit high, but fair enough. Oh, but no Chapter Master in this list, so that's why. That's why we have the extra points. 2 Ravenwing Talon Masters. 1 in Cursor Squad, a Blade Guard Ancient. We talked at length about the Blade Guard Ancient last week, and I think we came to the conclusion that it was more efficient than other Ancients because it automatically is upgraded to a Deathwing model, which is cool. Pretty good. And then this one's running Landspeeder Tornadoes alongside Landspeeder Vengeances to make use of the Ravenwing buffs. But I think it's kind of like, it feels like sort of, it's personal preference, whether it's Landspeeders, attack bikes, or Black Knights that you take for your, like, whatever your Ravenwing contingent is. Or Storm Speeders. Occasionally you see Storm Speeders as well. And I honestly, like, I'm sure at some point the community will figure out that there's, like, one best option to take out of those, but I don't know if there's, like, an easy one for right now. So fair enough. I think that composition's gonna be emblematic of like 90% of Dark Angel's list, I think, moving forward. So I don't know if there's too much exciting things to talk about Dark Angels, to be honest. There's gonna be 2 like 20-ish big, huge Terminator units. There's gonna be Ravenwing stuff running around the sides, and those Terminator units are gonna bubble wrap like 2 Talon Masters and Samael, which are also going to shoot. And so it's like, if you don't run into the middle, they'll score a billion primary. If you do run into the middle, they'll shoot you and then charge you with Deathwing. And you're just like, well, this sucks. It is an open question. They're currently sitting at a 60% win rate. It's an open question whether or not Dark Angels are too strong. I think we need more data before we make like a decision, because they don't have a particularly high play rate right now. But I can see the army being kind of one-dimensional, and more agile armies that are able to deal with the Ravenwing stuff and then sort of kite the Deathwing has a good place. And especially because most armies in the game, like, you can kill 1 Deathwing squad generally. The second one's usually tough, so sometimes the second one kind of anchors you, but you can trade shots with the Ravenwing stuff, and if you can knock 1 Deathwing squad down and you don't lose too much doing it, you can still win, and that's what we've started to see so far. But it does get kind of dicey for Dark Angels if their opponent is very maneuverable. Why do I think Guard are doing so poorly compared to their projected power? So that one I don't know. I have no idea. We have a couple, there's a couple Astra Militarum to talk about, but yeah, it's wild. It may be that because Astra Militarum ends up being kind of one-dimensional, like they have solid melee, mostly in Atoll and Rough Riders. And then, like, I guess, like, the command squad chicanery that they can do with, like, hitting you with Ogryn bodyguards. But for the most part, it's just indirect fire. And we've seen in the past that the indirect fire lists, like, when we saw Azuriani running sort of abusive levels of indirect fire, when we saw back in the day Imperial Fist running indirect fire, and even past Guard list or Imperial Soup that ran a lot of indirect fire. and not to say that Astra Militarum is entirely indirect fire. There's also a lot of direct fire shooting too, and then Barbican's key Kazrakin units jumping around, stuff like that. But the list is like very one-dimensional. If it can shoot you to death, it'll win. If it can't shoot you to death, it'll lose. And those lists tend to be abused by. They tend to be like a good gatekeeper list, where they tend to be abused by somebody who can play the melee game more effectively than the Astra Militarum player can prevent it. And so it may be that like once you get to these upper echelons of competition, people start losing. They start like sort of getting pushed out on primary and losing kind of big, and that knocks them off from like podium spots. So I'd be interested to see if Guard, they're right now like around a 50% win rate. I'd be interested to see if Guard, if they move up to a high win rate, but don't really get to that like the T-whip, the winning position. But I have no idea. I also think that there's to some extent, there's like rules controversy. The codex has not been FAQ'd yet. Some places aren't even allowing it. Some places, we may have some data carrying over from the old Militarum codex. It's like sort of it's kind of a bag of cats right now. There also might be hobby lag, too. Like, people aren't really jumping in on Guard too much. And Dark Angels may be a little bit of a hard counter. Like, if you just, you're relying on, like, I guess, Leman Russ Executioners to kill Deathwing Terminator bricks, and that matchup, that profile matchup's just really weird. You're, like, -2 to wound them. They save 50% of the time, and then they damage ignore 50% of that. So a Leman Russ Executioner goes to shoot and kills, like, 1 or 2 Terminators, which then, like, the Pennant makes them shoot on death, and they, like, knock half your Leman Russ out, and then the Apothecary brings them back to life, and you're like, cool. This is a fun trade. Everyone's having a good time here. So it might also be just, like weird bad matchups in the metagame. I have no idea. Love that everyone moaned about the auto win on 6 with Votann, and Guard had the same thing, but nobody moaned at all. Oh yeah, nobody moaned. Definitely nobody made videos about that, talking about how much potential damage that unit has. All right. Let's keep going. We talk about some Genestealer Cults. So it feels like Genestealer Cults is really striating into like there's 2 builds now. There's more than one, which is great. Usually it was just this build, basically. Either running Cold-Eyed Killers and War Convoy, or swapping those into what is it? Deep Supplies, which gives them the wound reroll on like MSU style armies. But so basically this sort of a similar composition of Myriad Cult versus Twisted Helix is the other one that you see play pretty often. And we did see some Twisted Helix in the T5SC Invitational too. Some got streamed on Robin Roberts, who I streamed at Everwinter. Also got streamed on War Games Live this weekend, doing really well with Genestealer Cults, with Twisted Helix. So those are the two most common builds that we see. So we have a Clamabus. Interestingly, Oppressor's Bane on the Clamabus. Give him a nice gun to drop some exposing crossfire tokens on people. Wormtooth round Kellermorph, Acolyte Icon Ward to heal the big units, as well as a Primus. 2 little units of Acolyte hybrids to hold objectives, and then everything else is neophytes. Looks like all 20s, all 20s. So they get those free special weapons now. Weber guns in there, and then otherwise just a bunch of shotguns and seismic cannons to make use of industrial affinity. So it's just like 80 models sitting on the table. They're stalwart. They have 1 million attacks. They get, potentially +1 to hit and wound if you're exposed and crossfired. 10 Pure Strain Genestealers. Just the 1 unit of 10 to pregame move what they came from below to Alpha Strike people. And then Cranial Inlay Nexos for CP regen. A Sanctus. It's been interesting because I think there are a lot of people who are kind of... I've been noticing a little bit more often. There's a lot of armies that are relying very heavily on Warp Ritual, whether that's like Azyuriani or Tyranids or even other Genestealer cults. And having, between the Sanctus and the Kellermorph, they have 2 really strong anti-character shooting options. And I guess this also helps for Dark Angels, because you can shoot You could shoot at the Talon Masters and try to kill them. And the Kellamorph has actually a pretty good chance at knocking down a Talon Master with some luck. Maybe you drop some rerolls in there. And knocking out those Psychers with anti-lookouts or shooting, with the sniper shooting, can really like throw some game plans off. And then this list is running all of the Adelant Shackles. So we have 3 of 10 with 2 Wolf Quads in them. Running Incinerators. So those are the free Wolf. That's the free upgrade. You don't have to pay for the Heavy Flamer on those guys. Sick. And then those things get all the benefits. They have War Convoy, so they get a 6+ damage ignore. They're built in -1 to be hit, and then the Acolyte Icon Word regenerates them. So those units for being 195 points are just like ridiculously difficult to kill. So you can use them to sort of hold down territory that you're then going to drop in with Neophytes and stuff into, and then blow people up with guns. Good stuff. We got a Chaos Knights here from Alex Petford. House Herpetrax, so the extra wounds on them, and it is 1 Desecrator with the Diamonas and Blessing of the Dark Master. So the big cannon, the big laser destroyer, and then everything else is War Dogs. Cool. All right, fair enough. Now, Chaos Knights have been actually doing very well right now. I do think that there's probably a little bit of a knock-on effect from Arks of Omen where people are cutting troops from their lists and they're relying on like characters to do Rites of War and things. But that is significantly less reliable than having troops provide your lookout, sir. So I think that there's going to be a little bit of a rollover effect where people are don't have the same amount of objective secured that they usually do. So these mass War Dog lists that just have tons of 5-model OPSEC are able to really just destroy you on primary. And I think we're going to see the same for both Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights. In my opinion, I think Imperial Knights are a little bit stronger, but Chaos Knights, it seems like, are putting up better results currently. And I don't know why that is. That might just be a sample size kind of thing. The Chaos Knights, they got a benefit, a buff to their actions as well, because they got their Shadow Operation Secondary buffed, which is called Storm of Darkness. It now scores 4 victory points instead of 3 each time you complete it. Previously, it was basically capped at 9 because you could only ever do it on 3, and now it's capped. Or you only reliably do it on 3 unless you table your opponent, basically. And now it usually will get 12, and that's a huge benefit as well. Even just getting it on 2 objectives, if it's a scrappy game and you get 8, and your opponent, like, you can knock your opponent off of one of their secondaries, it's like huge for you. So I think that's also a big deal as well. Because the other Chaos Knight secondaries are pretty good. Ruthless Tyranny is incredibly strong too. The first ignored demon save was announced this week. There's already ignored demon save stuff in the game. I believe that the what is it? The Calexis Assassin already ignored saves because you could only take invulnerable saves against him. That one I don't know. But also, Grey Knights had an ignored demonic invulnerability in their codex. They had to get it FAQ'd in, but they did get it. Steven Box, I think he's playing his list mostly from LVO, which I did talk about at great length. And I absolutely love this list. This is a list after my own little tyranny heart here. So he is running a Far-Flung Craftworld using Children of Cain and Vengeful. So it is exploding 6s in the fight phase, and then, if I remember correctly, rending on the other
Do you
ones.
think Custodian infantry spam is actually good or a bit of a gimmick?
Thanks for the super chat. GCMS Meta Monday. I appreciate you. Do I think it's actually good? I do think it's actually good. I will say that, like, I think the lists that are, like, spammy in that they take only Custodian infantry, and they're like, look at, I brought 30 Wardens and 10 Terminators. I think that is a little bit like too one-dimensional. It's like a one-trick pony. But I think the lists that are like 2 or 3 maybe like huge infantry bricks and Custodians is legitimately solid. I mean, that's the archetype we're seeing doing well right now is like a bunch of Terminators, right? Like that's currently the meta, and Custodians just do that as well as anyone else for the most part. I don't think they do it as well as Dark Angels do, but I think their list is still strong, and I think it needs to be backed up with shooting. So if you're running Allied Armigers or Caladius or something, I think that helps a ton. But I do think that like the big Custodian infantry picks are legit for sure. Yeah. But against mass War Dogs in RTT last weekend, couldn't kill 10 War Dogs in time to rent the 12-point secondary. Yeah, I mean, that's the gimmick of the list, right? That's just like how it goes. But I mean, to be fair, War Dogs, especially you compare them to Armigers, right? Like a bonded Armiger is like impossible to kill. It's like killing a Leviathan Dreadnought. Like that's objective secured and has a better invulnerable save. War Dogs are much easier to kill. So I think there's going to be a lot of armies in the game that just rinse that army off the table if they're spamming a ton of those things. Yeah, it's largely the free war gear. Their defensive profile didn't really change because they just swapped out whatever their shitty gun they were taking for a storm shield. So their defensive profile is the same, and in some cases even better. And they have all the it's generally specifically Dark Angels Terminators, because they already have the baked-in benefit of being Deathwing, and they get their free stuff. Plus having incredible secondaries too. Like let's not overlook the fact that Space Marine secondaries are phenomenal right now. You're kind of, especially in the list that's like very aggressively oriented, where they're trying to push up into the middle of the table, they can run shock tactics, and you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if your secondaries aren't amazing, and they just push you out on primary, and you're scoring 8s or 4s, and they're scoring 12s, they'll max primary, you won't. And if you try to stop them from scoring primary by taking the middle objective or one of their home objectives, they're just going to shock tactics you, and their secondary score is going to increase like in parity with their primary score. So like, they just get to play in the sprinkler. Like, they get to have their cake and eat it, too. Where they're like, I'm going to do my thing and get 12 primary points, and I get to punish you for stopping me. Which is brutal. So, I think that's the other benefit, too, is that their secondary objectives are a little bit better. Yes. So, yeah, this list, speaking of which, is +1 damage. Excuse me, not rending. +1 damage on wound rolls. So your 6s to wound are +1 or additional damage, and then exploding 6 to hit. Thanks to Vengeful. So it is all melee all the time, and there is a synergy between the two sub-faction abilities where the explosions can then be 6s to wound if you roll them, and then have the potential to add additional damage. So it's like, because you have abilities that trigger off having more attacks rolling to wound, your exploding attacks are like even a little bit more effective than they would normally be. Getting exploding attacks on things like, Aspect Warriors is great already, but you also get that extra benefit. So we have an Ambush of Blades, Autark for the +1 AP, with Falchu's Wings, so we can drop mortal wounds on people and fly around. An Avatar of Cain, which I love. We've been seeing a lot more Avatars of Cain played lately. I think they mostly, they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of cute. One Farseer, one Jane Czar, which I like. So we're trying to like engage across the breadth of your opponent's army, and the downside to that is you can oftentimes open yourself up to interrupts. So having 3 separate, potentially 4 separate instances of Fight Last means that you can charge their whole army with your whole army, and you don't have to worry about them interrupting and just like clipping out a unit before it gets to swing. So that's why Jane Czar's in here over Behareth, I think, because she has a permanent Fight Last. It's not even on the charge like the Howling Banshee says, it's permanent. And then, yeah, 2 Howling Banshee units, one with the Nerve-Shredding Shriek Crone Scream, one with the Piercing Strikes, 20 Striking Scorpions, a big one of 10, and then 2 of 5s. We have Biting Blades on all of them. Is there no crushing blows? Oh no, here's the crushing blows guy. And then deadly ambush for the bonus once the unit is in terrain. So especially if you're running into a terrain format that has like those big bricks of obscuring terrain, and you know that those 10 scorpions can deploy along the table edge, and if you go first, you just get to like nuke your opponent off the board. With that big unit, you run into their ruin and engage like 3 enemy units and kill them all on the first turn. Then a lot of times that just ends the games immediately. And then 8 Shining Spears. One of them's got the whole combo, Heart Strike for Mortal Wounds, Kane's Lance for the Fight Lance and Mortal Wounds, and then Paragon Saber to reroll into the Mortal Wounds, and then the other guy's just running a Lance with Expert Lancers, which is +1 to hit on the charge, I believe. 3 D-Cannon platforms and 3 Warwalkers. Again, they forward deploy alongside the 20 Scorpions, and they can come in and just rinse down your opponent's utility units. So theoretically, if you don't win the roll-off for Defender to deploy the first unit, then this list just gets to drop like 20 Striking Scorpions and 3 Warwalkers, so like literally 500 points of its army in like basically in front of your deployment zone. And if you lose the roll-off, you just lose. And if you win the roll-off, they just pull most of that back to the deployment zone, and you don't even like get to kill it with Phantasm. It's real like end of 8th Dead Space Marine energy, where there's Raven Guard redeploying their whole army. Danny Evison with some Iron Hands over here. We have a captain in this list. It feels like so long since I saw a Smash captain being played, but that's what we got today, chat. We have the Burning Blade, so the AP4 Power Sword with Imperium Sword. I want this guy to have student history so bad. Like, so bad. You have no idea. Every time I see a student of history Smash captain, I'm like, this guy, he knows what's up. He knows, he's got the good stuff going on. But he's got Imperium Sword, so he's like 6 attacks. I believe that sword is a strength 7, AP 4, might be AP 5 even, and 2 damage. Is that right? Which is like fine, I guess. It's no like Teeth of Terra, but it's okay. That is a chapter relic, yeah. It is AP 5. Strength 7, AP 5, 2 damage. It goes to Strength 8 because of Imperium Sword, and then he's 6 attacks on the charge. So, like, he hits pretty hard. That seems fine. But he can't consolidate out of melee. What's even the point at that point? Ah! A Primaris Tech Marine with target protocol, so he's going to be sitting there to buff the Relic Contemptor Dreadnought, 2 Infiltrator Squads, normal stuff. The Relic Contemptor Dreadnought, I could go through the whole Relic Contemptor combo, but I'm not going to because I've talked about it in like 7 different videos. So if you want to know what this thing does, watch. I did an Iron Hands video with Fooch back in the day. That was like a year ago. I did a Space Marine video, or I did a video about all the lists where I talked about it like 2 weeks ago, and then I have another Space Marine video coming out where I'm sure I'm going to talk about it again tomorrow. So like, we'll talk about it. We got some scouts with camo cloaks. These guys are coming in out in a big way, even outside of Iron Hands. But in Iron Hands, all their weapons are heavy because they get a heavy weapon and then scout sniper rifles, so they benefit from the Iron Hands doctrine and abilities. So staying in Devastator Doctrine is actually pretty good for them. This one's running Sternguard Veteran Squad, which is actually really cool. I don't know if I noticed that. That's sick. 2 Sternguard Veteran Squads, Combi Meltas on 2 of them, 3 of them, which they get for free now. They get a Combi Melta and a Special Issue Bolt Gun. Wait, for real? No way that's how that works. They get to keep their bolter? No way. I don't believe that they can. Yeah, that looks like a mistake. They definitely replaced their Special Issue Bolt Gun. That would be insane. that would be ridiculous. Yeah, I don't think that they have a Combi Melta and a Special Issue Bolt Gun. Because I don't believe that there is a combination by which they can replace, with a combi weapon. that'd be really cool. But we do have heavy weapon. We do have multi-meltas in those units. That is a little funky. I guess they're significantly less expensive than just taking Devastator squads, but they also are not. They don't feel quite as efficient because you're taking assault meltas instead of heavy meltas, which Iron Hands don't love to do. But I mean the Devastator melta squads have to pay for their multi-meltas. You pay like 50 more points and you get one more melta shot, you get heavy melta shots and two more total melta shots because you get a combi melta on the sergeant, but whatever. And then 2 Vanguard veteran squads, one with Lightning Claws, one with Power Fists, 2 Suppressor squads. Love seeing Suppressors back in. They're being played a lot right now for the factions that want to sit in Devastator Doctrine. They're very efficient in Iron Hands, and especially as like a fast, they're move 12 infantry, so they can do actions really well. They can screen really well, and then also they just like put out really appreciable shooting in the shooting phase if you need them to. And then 2 Devastator squads with Grav and Multi-Meltas, and 2 drop pods and a Land Speeder Storm and a Gladiator Reaper. These Iron Hands lists feel like they just go on for days. They're so efficient. They have so many units in them. Oh my god. Grey Knights get their relic for free in Battlescribe? That's wild. That's funny. Liam Calabout playing some Chaos Demons. I love this list. This is almost a list after my own heart. The downside is that we have a Changecaster and a Transweaver instead of a Lord of Change. I want to see a Lord of Change in this list. But we got Scarbrand, we got Bellicor. Bellicor can warp Locus in Scarbrand, which is, I think, my favorite delivery system for Scarbrand. Or he just reduces your leadership by low enough that Scarbrand like shows up right next to you. Because the downside of Scarbrand is you basically have to teleport him in. He's so squishy if you don't that he just gets shot off the table like immediately. But he comes in like bottom 2 or top 3 or something as kind of a late game anchor, and then he becomes like impossible to deal with for your opponent for the most part. Triple Flamers still getting run. Love to see that. We have 2 units of 4 Fiends. Lots of people on the Fiends right now. Which I definitely understand as they're kind of an answer to Demonettes that are like a little bit more armor cracky. They're incredibly lethal to Space Marines. If you're playing Space Marines, you see a Fiend across the table, you just know that like each one of those Fiends accounts for like an entire dead tactical squad. They just have like perfect high AP 2 to 3 damage melee attacks, and they just like rip you apart. And they're very fast as well. But they kind of overkill whatever they hit if you're running like small Marines. And they punch so inconsistently against vehicles that I never like, I don't know. You have to have a very specific profile for Fiends to hit, in my opinion. Screamers in here, I think mostly just to complete secondaries. They can score Reality Rebels if you really need them to, super, super well. And they screen. They fight okay, but they have a crappy save in melee. So if they don't kill whatever they hit, they like take a bunch of damage back and then run away, which is unfortunate for them. And then a bunch of Nurglings and a bunch of Demonettes. It's pretty standard stuff. Love it. Love to see it. I like these Demons lists and how technical they get. Like we have little modules between like we have the Transweaver to buff the Demonettes. We probably start one Demonette unit on the table to do actions. The other one deep strikes in mid game to like get a 6 or a 7-inch charge and steal a bunch of objectives. And then we have the Changecaster plus Exalted Flamer plus the Flamers. So we have almost the entire Flamer Wombo combo on. And we have Bellicor's Warlord trait, so we can actually give them rerolls, which is huge too. We talked about Manichima's Dark Angels. Can move on. We can talk about some Astra Militarum. So I think this is an X1 Astra Militarum. I think this is the only one that we have on the page. I know Devin, who is in the Invitational right now, or excuse me, just got knocked off yesterday. So spoiler alert for those who haven't seen that game. It was a really cool game. I'm going to be honest. I think he was in a really, really bad matchup, but he did his best to like play unorthodox to play out of it. And I think there's like 90% of players in the game would approach the matchup that he was playing in and like just do it in an entirely different way that would end up being wrong, and they would get bowled over. But he like made an actual fight of it because he just like reversed how his army normally worked, which I thought was really impressive. Unfortunately, he got knocked out, but somebody's got to. But he went 5-1 with Astra Militarum this weekend as well at Stutter Snotling, which we'll talk about later. I think we have that in here. Oh, that's the next one. Yeah, that's the next one to talk about. Didn't quite top 5, but got pretty close with some Astra Militarum. I think only lost to the Dark Angels list, which does feel like a really bad matchup. All right, we got a Born Soldiers, so the standard regimental doctrine. A Cadian command squad, this one with the Finial, and that's basically it. Lord Solar Leontis and 1 tank commander with Gatekeeper. Ursula Creed. So Ursula Creed is currently borked. I might do like a weird rules video on this, but Ursula Creed is messed up right now because she can order 3 times, and while you can only be affected by an order at once, there's no restriction on being ordered multiple times in the same command phase. In fact, there's support for it built into the codex. If you get ordered multiple times, it just refreshes whatever order you have. It doesn't having an order on you doesn't prevent you from being ordered again. It just replaces the current order that you have, which means that you are allowed to order multiple times on something. And Ursula Creed's +1 strength ability on ranged attacks currently lasts for a round when you target the unit with an order, which means you can just triple order 1 unit and buff their guns by +3 strength, which is for sure unintended, but means that she's incredibly strong right now. So we have 5 units of Cadian Shock Troopers. The 3 Kazarkin units. So one of them with Recon Operators, which is the pre-game move, I believe. One of them with Veteran Guerrillas, so they can ignore cover. And then the last one with Heirloom Weapons for the extra range. Barbican's Key on the ignore cover one, which I think requires them to be within 12. Oh, 18. Oh, okay. So that's easy. So they can jump up within 18, no problem with the Barbican Ski. The other guys can get ordered to have heavy weapons and then just move and shoot. And then, yeah, it's all normal stuff. It's 2 hotshot volleys, 2 plaz, and we're gonna do a bunch of mortal wounds with them. The whole combo's here. We got Lord Solar Leontis and everything. 3 units of heavy weapons teams, so you can order them for +1 to hit, +1 AP, so they ignore the indirect fire benefit or penalty. Basically, it just counteracts it, and then they can be buffed with the +3 strength, so they can go like winning like T3 stuff on 2s. So oftentimes these guys just sort of like win you the mirror match, where your mortar teams are having an artillery battle while the rest of your army's like doing whatever. And whoever mortar team wins that fight first just starts killing all of the infantry on the other side of the table. We got some Lehman Russ battle tanks, 3 executioners, and a Chimera, potentially for one of these Kazarkin teams. Nice. Normal stuff. It's nice to see all the Cadian shock troops here. They get access to the drum-fed autogun, so their small arms shooting is a little bit better than a normal infantry squad because they get a couple extra lasgun shots, and they get access to the Acadia stands, the transhuman. So they can sit around on objectives for a while, especially against sort of mid-tier shooting, if it's not super high volume. Yeah, I could definitely Kazar can do seem real strong for sure. Yeah, I mean, I know. And I think the worst part is that they put units to the point that they get one shot by the Lehman Ross, right? So like it's not even that you can move out and try to like soak a bunch of your opponent's shooting, because if the Barbican's Q unit gets all the buffs and then hops into your deployment zone and just rinses half your team down, even though it doesn't kill anything, it sets you up to get killed by the other guns, and it just feels super bad, especially if your armor save's not that great and you just die to mortar teams. You're just like, wow, cool, this is fun. Yeah, I mean, I think the Kazarkins, their damage output from it. I mean, for sure, the change is going to be made is that Born Soldiers won't count as an automatic 6 to wound, so it won't trigger all the other abilities. And It seems to me that that is a significant reduction in their damage output. And if they limit the amount of mortal wounds that they deal, like their output's going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be, you know, it's not any stronger than like a Devastator squad with all the Iron Hands buffs hitting you. And it is like a similar cost investment. Devastators usually need a drop pod, which is more expensive, but like you're spending like 140 or whatever on a Devastator squad versus 100 points and a bunch of command points on the Khazarkan team. So I think it's like a 6 of 1, half of the others. It sort of feels like. Are they easy to screen? On the first turn, I think that's the case, but Barbican's Key can jump in anytime. So if you're, and any of these heavy shooting lists love it when you screen heavily. So if you have forward deploy that's like stretched out across the midline of the table, they're like, this is awesome. I'm just going to kill all that with machine guns. And then the next turn I'll jump in on you. And if you don't let me jump in on you and you screen more, I'm going to kill all that with machine guns. And like suddenly you're incentivized to move out of your line of sight blockers. And they're like, sweet. And eventually, you know, even if it comes to like round 3, they're like, all right, Barbican's Key will hop in and just soften everything up or clear off whatever the mortars didn't kill. Like it's like mid-game redeploys are such a huge threat throughout the entirety of the game. And anything you break cover with against Astra Militarum is most likely going to be dead. We're over here with Peter Duff talking some frickin' Chaos Knights, my dude. This is all War Dogs. We were just talking about War Dogs. House Vextrix for these ones. It's so I'm gonna be honest, I totally forgot which one that was because it's so unlikely that you don't see a Herpatrax. Feels like all Herpatrax all the time, but this is the one that gives you Master Artisans. So you get a hit roll and wound roll. We have 2 of 3 War Dog Brigands to 3 Executioners, a single Carnivore with Helm of Dogs, and 5 total Stalkers, 1 with Blessing of the Dark Master. Blood Shield on the Helm of Dogs guy. That gives him a built-in +1 attack. And then he's a Frenzied Invader. I'm not sure what that one does. But that means he's very good character assassin because he can knock down invulnerable saves in the fight phase, and then with all the bonus attacks, probably clip out whatever he hit. Frenzied Invaders just gives him exploding 6s in melee. Does that restrict what he can target Helm of Dogs with, though? Interesting. So he is a Dreadblade, yeah. Because he's a Dreadblade, so he gets the subfaction ability. But the Helm of Dogs aura is not subfaction locked. So he gives reroll 1s to any War Dog within 6 inches of him, despite the fact that he's in a different subfaction. That's pretty freaking cool. I did not know that. But that's sweet. We got some Genestealer Cults from Mark Pilkington. This looks like a very similar list. Triple Pure Strain Genestealers. This is actually a little bit different. So we're running the same custom tutorial, Cold-Eyed Killers, Industrial Affinity War Convoy. So we get the +1 AP on wound rolls of 6. So we're a little bit better in melee. A bunch of Neophyte hybrids with shooty guns. Look at them all. And then the Triple Pure Strain Genestealers, one has they came from below, but usually you take 2 Goliath trucks to like hide the additional units, but we're not doing that today. We're literally just putting them on the table, which is a little interesting. So we have a little bit heavier of a melee punch in this list than the previous version we talked about, because that one ran the additional Adelan Jackal unit over these additional 17 Pure Strains. But this one, I think if you come into the neophytes, they don't like Overwatch super great because they don't have auto hitting guns, and their guns are not super great IP unless they're they're not super dangerous unless they're really heavily buffed up. But if you kind of advance into them, there is a pretty hefty counter punch here from the pure range Genestealers, which is really interesting. Nice to see a little bit of flexibility in Genestealer Cults. More Chaos Demons going on. Oh yeah, this one's all Tzeentch. I did notice this one when I was looking through lists earlier. This is another list that I super duper love because it actually unlocks its Warp Storm abilities. Most of the time, if you're playing Chaos Demons, you can't get your Warp Storms because you have to take a mixed attachment, and unless you build a list just like this one, there's basically no way to get the full Allegiant detachment. And this one's making it work at 5-1. We have a Lord of Change. He's got Impossible Robe, Incorporeal Form. So he's -1 to be wounded and gets the blank A wound roll every time. He's also taking Architect of Deception. What is that one? We're going off the reservation here. Usually it'd be like a Master Mutator. As the Exalted ability. Exalted Lords of Change. What are your abilities? Oh, this is just -1 to hit. Okay, just kidding. I just forgot what the name was, I guess. That one's actually not that exciting. So he's the big tanky chicken. -1 to be hit and -1 to be wounded and blanks 1 save every turn. Even if you get him to melee, he's so tough. The -1 to hit doesn't apply, but the -1 to wound still does. And you get the Impossible Robe as well. We then have a Demon Prince. With the upgraded +1 damage sword, a Fate Skimmer as the buff bot, so he's got Infernal Flames and Boon of Change, and then 18 Flamers. So we're back to the full 6 units of 6. We can get reroll 1s to hit on them from the Lord of Change, and you can get +1 to hit from the and I guess the Demon Prince also gives them rerolls, right? So we have 2 sources of the reroll 1s. I would assume that that's what it does, right? I know it does. Allegiant core units within 6 get reroll 1s. So we have 2 sources of reroll 1s to hit, 1 source of reroll 1s to wound from the Fate Skimmer. We can give them +1 to hit because we actually unlock the Tzeentch +1 ballistic skill ability. And then 3 Exalted Flamers, a bunch of Screamers to do utility stuff with, and 3 Burning Chariots. So a ton of shooty gunshots from the Exalted Flamers. Those are all firing. The Exalted Flamers and the Burning Chariots have the same weapon profiles. Which is either the 3-shot strength 9. I think it's between 8 and 9, depending on who is shooting it. AP for 3 damage. Or, interestingly, the Exalted Flamer pink fires still automatically hits. Even if the Flamer one doesn't, the the Chariot and the Exalted Flamer ones do. So a 2d6 strength 6 AP2. 1 damage as the additional shot. So you could be shooting this list fires a total of what is that? 18 3 damage attacks plus all of the demon shooting, the flamer shooting, plus all of the mortal wounds from the Lord of Change. So the ranged output from this list is absolutely ridiculous. It has a little bit of efficacy in melee. The Demon Prince can punch okay. The Lord of Change is he punches all right. He has a sword on him, so he gets the extra malefic attacks. I think he swings 7 times at his top bracket, but he always fails to kill whatever he charges. That's been my experience with that guy. And the Screamers, I guess they punch okay, but once you get stuck into this list, it's gonna have a bit of a tough time. But other than that, it's rocking pretty hard right here. Yeah, a sister list would be appreciative of this. Blue Fires are basically Melta-guns, right? They're kind of multi-Meltas, and then it's just literally hundreds of Flamer shots between the Pink Fire and the Flamers of Tzeentch. There's no actual horrors in this list. I think you could maybe cut some Screamers for some horrors, but then your secondary scoring is way worse, I guess, because you have a tough time getting Reality Rebels. I'd also love... I think I'd love to see a Be'lakor in this list, honestly, too. I don't know what you'd cut for him, But he feels like he could take the place of that Demon Prince and be like in a pretty good spot. If you could find another 150 points or so, if you fit him in, or 200 points, 140. How many? He's 420 right now. How many points are you, Bellicor? Yeah, you need like 240 points. That'd be a lot. Mostly because he can teleport the. You unlock the +1 cast Warp Storm effect, which is huge. Because Bellicor is kind of bad at casting. But then he lets you teleport the flamers around, which otherwise you don't have. And so despite the fact you have a lot of ranged attacks, they're almost kind of melee because they're only like 12 to 18 inch range. So you getting the ability to send things across the table is huge. Especially because if you make him the Warlord, you lose the -1 to hit on the Lord of Change, but then you can point rerolls at those guys and run them to the table. We just talked about that in the other demons list, so I don't know if we need to continue to harp on Bellicor's interaction with the with Flamers. So speaking of Adeptus Custodes, we got some Adeptus Custodes infantry spam to talk about right here. It looks like Solar Watch. So we get Fall Back and Advance and Charge from Solar Watch, if I remember correctly. Fall Back and Charge, and they their first trait gives them +1 to advance and charge rolls. So they're very fast. Super useful for these big units of Custodian Wardens. Oh, and I guess their Warlord trait lets them advance and charge. Oh, that's what it is. Do they have that? Yes. There you go. I remembered. Trajan Valoris is the Warlord. Alea is in the HQ slot, who I've literally never seen on the table. I believe she used to come in a unit with Valyrian, right? But I guess they changed that. Wild. So let's take a quick look at Alea here. There we go. We got a RoboShark in chat to remind me of what they do. Sally forth! So she's got a Misericordia 5, Strength 6, AP 3, 2 damage attacks. It's pretty solid. 5+ invulnerable save. She gets reroll 1s to wound 2 Sisters of Silence, which is okay if you have Flamer Witch Seekers. And then she gets to fight first, and she can fight on death. So I guess she's just kind of she's kind of a disruption character. She can also, like, you can play her aggressively, and she can project your deny strat. So she can disrupt warp rituals, I imagine, is a big benefit. Also, psychic interrogations. This list does feel like it was one that is going to be have a tough time with psychic interrogation because it has the Vexillus Praetors. For whatever reason, all of the psychic interruption that Sisters of Silence have are within 18 inches, though. So I'm not sure that... I guess, like, if she's way up in the front, the technology might work. But that feels a little bit tough, to be honest. Kind of sweet, though. I don't know. I guess I like that. So there's the 2 Vexillus Praetors. One of them has the Dense Cover banner. The other one is the Imperious, which is +1 attack. Is that right? This list is so off the wall. I have to actually read what all the things do. Yeah, it is +1 attack. Nailed it. I'm so good at this. And then, yeah, 20 Custodian Wardens. A unit of 3, and then 3 units of just Alaris Custodians, 1 unit of Witch Seekers for the pregame move. So the Witch Seekers are good to hold out the side objectives and then try to screen out turn 1 deep strikes, obviously. You can also screen pretty well with the Alaris Custodians. It's kind of a pricey, but individual, like single entity screeners are pretty strong. And then you just run up the table with 20 Wardens and hope for the best. Just they got 5 attacks apiece if they're standing next to both Vexillus. They're minus 1 to be hit. Transhuman, no rerolls. Let's go. Advance and charge. Let's go. Leia gets a pre-game move with the Witch Seekers. Oh, the Witch Seekers granted to somebody? No. Yeah, there is no Rhino in this list, chat. So, Witch Seekers can do the Dominion Squad pre-game move, so they can push a Rhino with them, but they don't have a Rhino. They're just using their own pre-game move. So, yeah. I guess she can teleport and stuff on her? Is that? What is the maybe I'm missing something. Oh, the teleport Homer lets you push things to specifically Alea. It's not an ability she has. it's a stratagem that calls her out. That's wild. Okay, fair enough. So she can pull a unit to her. That's cool, I guess. That technology with the Rhino is really neat. It feels less exciting. I mean, I guess it's just a Beacon Angelus if she's just like chilling. So you could keep her in the back and pull a unit out of melee to her, or you could push her forward and keep a unit that's like holding a back objective to her. So I guess either one of those is pretty useful. Now I kind of wish this list had a Rhino. I didn't know about that Rhino technology, but that's actually super cool. That would have caught me out. I would have been like, why are there 10 Wardens in my deployment zone on the first turn? What are you doing? Please leave. Yeah, seems good. I'm interested to see if this is the style of list for Adeptus Custodians that sort of win out, especially because it's Solar Watch. So I think there are some matchups where you just like, because like you're not Shadow Keepers, right? Where the Custodian Wardens can like hold the middle and they can survive for much longer, and you're not Emperor's Chosen, so you don't have the Mortal Wound defense. So it feels a little matchup dependent, but mortal wounds are less of an issue right now than they were like 2 months ago when we were dealing with Tyranids and stuff, dropping tons of mortal wounds on people. I do think it's still problematic. If you hit Eldari or something, they're going to put a ton of mortal wound damage into you. I mean, we watched over the course of 2 weeks ago at Captain Con, 10 Harlequin Troopers kill like 8 Custodian Wardens pretty efficiently. And if they don't have mortal wound defense on them, or even if they do, I think that was with anti-mortal wound protection. And if they don't have it, I think you can kill a unit of 10 no problem. So that is a little bit scary, but I think the speed is certainly worth it. Advance and charge is pretty good. There should be a Rhino. Yeah, I don't know, chat. I guess we could go to the original, right? But it looks to me like there isn't one. Let's look. I'm on BCP right now. We can take a quick look-see here. Beachhead. Oh no, this wasn't Beachhead. This was we just looked at Beachhead. This is Hellstorm. Hellstorm All-Stars. Yeah, Trajan, Alea, 3 Alarius, 1 Alaris, 1. I don't know, chat. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe he just felt like he doesn't need it. You know, he's like, that's fine. I'll just do fine without the cool technology. That way that every time like I get on stream, people don't like comment section isn't like full of people like, whoa, somebody's playing a Rhino? That's crazy. And you're like, is it crazy? Rhinos are actually pretty good. That feels like this is the discussion every time a Rhino shows up on stream. Anyway, we talked way too long about this Adepta Custodians list. That's a sweet list. And yeah, I don't know. It seems good. They did 160. Clearly it's good. Yeah, we talked at length about Chaos Knights, chat. Stutter Snotling. We have some more Dark Angels to talk about. I'm gonna look at them real quick, see if there's any difference. This one's running Landspeeder Vengeances, little attack bike, individual attack bike. It is 20 Deathwing Terminators, 5 Black Knights. We have the Ravenwing Champion in there. He's kind of cute. As the Chapter Champion, yeah. Yeah, he's the Chapter Champion with the 3 damage sword. And Imperium Sword for +1 strength and attack. And now I believe he gets access to the Ravenwing Stratagem to fall back instead of consolidating, because he is a Ravenwing unit. So that guy can actually sort of slap real hard and then leave combat. A lot of times you see that on a Talon Master. That's what we see in Papers List over from the Invitational. He's running all the melee upgrades on a Talon Master to run like 6 2 damage attacks and then leave combat. Just to like you can sort of free roll clearing little infantry squads and stuff like that. But I guess like doing it with the Ravenwing Champion, that guy's a really cheap include, and he hits a little harder than the Talon Master does. I think he's an additional 2 attacks, I want to say. Is that correct? Taking a look at my at Space Marines here. Because I think the base Chapter Champion profile is 1 over a Lieutenant. Or the base Company Champion. And I believe if you upgrade him to a Chapter Champion, he gets an additional 1, right? Yes. Yeah, he goes to 5 base. So he starts at 4. Chapter Champion brings him to 5 base. Imperium Sword brings him to 6. And then Blade of Triumph is Strength 8, AP 3 damage. That guy is an absolute Chad. So I guess it's the same number of attacks. Oh no, he's 7 attacks because he gets Shock Assault as well. Yeah. So he's more attacks at higher strength and higher damage than Heavenfall Blade guy. But obviously he costs you 70 points for the upgrade. And then you can use Swift Strike. A Ravenwing unit from your army. After it fights, it can fall back. Sick. This guy's amazing. I love this model. Actually, that's my favorite include of a Dark Angels list so far. I really like that. I want to see that technology more often. That costs you like 4 CP, but man, is it stylish. That's super duper cool. Good stuff. We then have the Pennant of Remembrance guy, an Apothecary, regular Apothecary, not Ravenwing, interestingly. 20 Terminators, 2 Talon Masters, and Ezekiel. Cool. That it certainly is a Dark Angels list. I definitely like that Champer Champion, though. I want more people to play that guy. We got some Leagues of Votann to talk about. Team Mere Conglomerate. 10 Hearthkin Warriors. This one's double Chthonian Berserks, 9 Pioneers. And then 2 Brokir Thunderkin. Chat, we're on the Brokir Thunderkin train real hard right now. 2 Hecaton Land Fortresses and Conversion Beamers. And that's it. Yeah, this one has a... this one doesn't have the Warp Strike team, so it doesn't have the big teleport squad, but it brings in the Grimnir, the additional Chthonian Berserks, and the additional unit of Thunderkin instead. That's so interesting. 105 points for these Brokir Thunderkin. I bet that's an actually good squad. I bet that squad's always been good and just nobody played them. Everyone was like, no. I'm just going to play Sagittors for days. But if you consider it, right? 3d6 shots, averages 10.5 versus a Sagittor shooting 12. And the Sagittor's like strength 7, 2 damage. Strength 6 to 7, 2 damage. These guys are higher AP. And if you're shooting at 3+ save enemies, higher damage. Plus they blast against the low volume stuff. It feels kind of 6 of one, half as the other. And they're much cheaper than Sagittars, although they die immediately as soon as they drop out of their transport. So, I don't know. I bet it's fine. Bobby Soto taking the Ravenwing champion this weekend? It seems fun, right? Like, there's going to be so many people who are like, oh, you don't have a heroic intervene or something? I'm going to body block you. And then this little champion's like, okay. And he just runs out and he stabs the whole unit to death and runs back. And you're like, okay, would you like to feed me another unit, please? That would be great. I appreciate you. Free reserve, too? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess reserving those guys makes sense. I sort of assumed that they would go inside the transports. But, reserving for a range 18 gun is probably better. Probably better than what I would do. You probably want the Chthonian Berserks in the transports. So that makes sense. Cool. Moving over to TJ Lanigan. This is another list that I absolutely love. This one's Scarbrand and a Lord of Change. We're all in. All I want to do, chat, is just replace this Transweaver with Bellicor. Play all 4 big beasties. That's like your whole list, unfortunately. You're running like 1,000, like 1,100 points in Greater Demons, and then a 420 point Bellicor, but, you know, whatever. It's probably fine. 10 bloodletters, a pink horror unit to set in a backline objective. These guys are good if you have really bad terrain, because it's basically impossible to one-shot them with guns, because they're so difficult to kill. 2 skull cannons, add a little bit of shooting and a bunch of fiends. No flamers at all. We've gotten rid of the flamers. Who needs them? But I like to see the Lord of Change back in. I think for a while, people were kind of poo-pooing the Lord of Change, but I think that both Nanavati and Morasoli kind of showed people the truth of the Lord of Change at LVO. I heard a lot of discourse, and it was really funny because there were certain cadres of people, and the Australian scene was one of them, where they would talk about how strong the Lord of Change was, and it was like one of the strongest characters in the game, one of the biggest mortal wound outputters in the game. And then there was like a lot of the US meta was like, Lord of Change is garbage. You can't play him. He just dies in melee or whatever. But like, he's so good. And both of them played it. They played against each other at one point, and yeah, I don't know. Both Lord of Change and Kairos Fate Weaver is incredible. I think the Lord of Change, just because of the Impossible Robe, is a little bit stronger, but both of them are super duper good. I don't know if everyone agrees with that flamers aren't that juicy, chat. We just talked about 2 lists that had triple flamers in them that did pretty well. One of them had the full 18, all 18 flamers. So Tau got nuked pretty hard by Arks of Omen for a couple of different reasons. They lost the multiple detachments, means their commander builds are really tough. Their secondaries didn't really get like too much of a bump, and I think they're having trouble with like a lot of the army archetypes out there. But Tom Ogden, he cannot be stopped. The man is an invincible god when it comes to playing Tau, and so he's 6-0 and it's stutter stalling. What a guy. Running Aunva. That's cool. No humble stave for him. He's got the prophet of truth himself. Cold Star Commander with Precision of the Hunter. Double cyclic ion blaster, solid image projection, thermonutronic projector, 1 missile pod. No high output push cannon, no D-wall. He's just running double sibs. That's cool. Commander Shadow Sun, the Shady Lady, is in here. I'm going to die on the hill that I think Commander Shadow Sun should be exempt from the commander restriction. Because she's a Supreme Commander. And because they took the Supreme Command detachment out, you can no longer like pull her with a bunch of other commanders, and I think that is an oversight. But that's not the first time that GW have changed mechanics to like sort of debilitate specific factions. Big brick of Crisis battlesuits. 1 tanky guy, so the shield generator stims. No Iridian battlesuit on him. We have 5 drones in the unit. 2 markers, 2 shields. 3 shields, excuse me. And 2 shield generators inside. Plus another unit of 3. I wonder if these guys are oftentimes a kind of a backline lookout, sir, bot. And then triple Riptide battlesuits. Easy peasy. 1 heavy burst cannon, 2 ion accelerator. I like that loadout. It definitely feels like if you run all of one or 2 of one, and like 2 burst cannons especially, you can run into situations where you just like hit a bunch of heavy armor and the burst cannon doesn't do anything. But I've also seen a lot of situations. I mean, we literally just streamed one where the Riptides ran triple ion accelerators and then hit a high volume enemy, and we're just like, well, this sucks. I guess I will shoot 7 demonettes to death. And that will be my contribution. Here we go. And this, they would love to have had a heavy burst cannon. 10 points cheaper, too. That heavy burst cannon as well is real strong in submarine profiles, too. Sort of mid-strength, mid-AP. You don't have to worry about it. It's got a target lock, so you don't have to worry about them being in cover. You don't have to worry about armor you can tempt. That thing will just, like, rinse 10 Space Marines to death pretty easily if it's buffed appropriately. Good stuff from the old Tau. It is a little sad, I think, that it definitely feels like this style is going to be the build. You get like 1 Crisis Brick, 3 Riptides, the 2, whatever your loadout of 2 commanders and probably Long Strike is, and then like you have like 300 points to play with. I think that's a little bit unfortunate. Tau have never felt like a particularly deep codex, and I think we're going to run into that in Arks of Omen. It doesn't feel like they have more than 1 or 2 builds available to them. Now we're just talking about Blood Angels. Sam Procopio with Blood Angels over here. 6-0 with what is one of the worst factions in the game, or the worst performing factions in the game. But going to show you that I think all these stats are going to show you that that's not the whole story for sure. And Sam Procopio is an incredibly strong player. This list is the list has changed a lot from the Nephilim variety because we're not running triple Death Company anymore. Since you don't have Fury of the Lost to score, you still want them because you want your opponents to forcibly screen out the pregame move from Forlorn Fury, and then they can also pregame move and then regular move and then charge and score you Relentless Assault immediately. So there's still like a secondary fire hose of VPs, but not quite as abusive as they were previously. And then I think the focus is really taken off of the Sanguinary Guard. Still running a bunch of Sanguinary Guard, but it's a 7, a 6, and a 5 instead of the 3 7s. So we've lost 3 Sanguinary Guard in exchange for a lot of utility. So the coolest thing about this list, and I looked at this list quite a bit because it's going to be in my video tomorrow, by the way. The coolest thing about this list is it's like insane on secondaries. Because you can't just fall back on Relentless Assault, Fury of the Lost, rock those in every game, and then just like do whatever you want. You have to be playing some of the core secondaries and the Space Marine secondaries. And so what we have, we still have the Visage of Death guy. So he removes OBSEC from people and then gives OBSEC to all the big infantry squads. And then we have a Sanguinary Priest with Selfless Healer to bring people back. My cat's here. Hello? Please don't scratch my chair. But then we have 3 Infiltrator squads. So we can do all the things that Infiltrator squads do. You can screen, you can alpha. You can just use them for backline holding. We have the Death Company Marines, and they're kind of a utility unit. The obligatory Wrath of Baal Sanguinary Ancient. And then Scouts in the Landspeeder Storm. So these guys are incredible at secondaries because the Landspeeder Storm's an assault transport, so they can disembark after moving. So it moves 18, I believe, then disembarks 3 and moves the scout unit. So they can like retrieve battlefield data at like 27 inches. They can get into your opponent's deployment zone. They can steal objectives. They can just like push super far or just hold an objective for a really long time. It's been a while since we've seen the Landspeeder Storm on the table, but they've always been incredibly strong. The Whirlwind in here to force fight lasts on people, and then double assault squads. They get free melting guns and Inferno pistols, which everybody loves, but also they're just really, really good for scoring action secondaries. And then they use that to back up a bunch of Sanguinary Guards. So this list, unlike the previous versions of of Blood Angels, this list feels so technical, and I love it. I think that's super cool. A list that looks like this, where it's a little bit more of a like a mixed bag of units rather than like just one thing over and over again, feels like it is more well crafted than the lists that are a little bit more straightforward. We also have this Aggressor squad in here, which I think is interesting. And one of the reasons that I kind of like it is that you have this like It feels like you have a like a dead zone in round 2, where you may be engaging with some stuff, and it's probably buffed with a Sanguinary Priest to get the Assault Doctrine benefits, but the you have to like suffer through a round of Tactical Doctrine before you supercharge and all your stuff gets plus 1 attack and all the benefits of Assault Doctrine. And the Aggressor Squad, because we have a Chapter Master as the Warlord, the Aggressor Squad gets those full rerolls on the ranged attacks. So you actually have this like 30-shot boat of AP1 gunshots that is pretty effective now, especially because you don't have to worry about Armor of Contempt. And just benefits enormously from Tactical Doctrine. In fact, it's more than 30 shots because you also have the Frag Storm. So it's actually like 45 shots. So I actually kind of like that. Good stuff. And then late game, they have -1 to hit, but you can buff them with the Chapter Master anyway. So they kind of go ham in melee too. Cool. We can move on. I'm probably, if we talk about lists that are very similar to ones that we've already looked at, I'm probably gonna sort of just gloss over them a little bit here, chat, to speed things up. This is another Custodians list, but it is Shadow Keepers this time, so we're much more defensively oriented. -1 attack in melee, and we get the stratagem for -1 strength on stuff coming in. We have the Dawn Eagle jet bike guy with Lock Warden, so he can punch through invuln saves on characters, and then Stasis Oubliette for the fight last. 3 units of Sagittarium Custodians, 3 units of Venatari Custodians. Oh my god, this went off the rails real fast here. So these guys are the jump pack infantry with the lances, which I think is the 2 damage melee attack, right? The other one is that you take the Destructor and the Buckler, which gives them like an AP2 punch in melee, but not as cool of a melee attack. The downside of these guys, interestingly, is that if they don't have the shield, they're only a 3+ save, so they're a little bit easier to kill. But that oftentimes doesn't matter so much if your opponent's AP2, because you're just on your invuln anyway. Yeah, so they have a 2-shot. Their lance can fire. They have a 2-shot, strength 6 AP2 T damage gun, and then get 4 attacks at strength 6 AP3 2 damage in melee. Real good Space Marine killers right there, actually. They're infantry. They're move 12 infantry, so they get objective secured, so they're very good at stealing objectives. If you have a 5-model obsec unit on an objective, and these guys charge in, and they all jump on that objective, they steal it from you, because they all count as 2, so they're 6-model obsec. That's actually super cool. I like that. That's awesome. 2 units of Vertus Praetors with salvo launchers as well, and a bunch of shooting from the Sagittarium to back them up. This list is sweet. I love that. That's awesome. I wonder if there's a build where you're just pushing Venatari Custodians. What's the difference between a Venatari and a Warden? They're like way easier to kill, because they're only a 3+4+ instead of a 2+4+ with a 6-up damage ignore. But if you give them advance and charge, they threat like like half the table. I guess they go much faster than a lot of the buffing characters, though, so you can't exactly like put them next to Vexillus Praetors or whatever. That's pretty sweet. We got some orcs to talk about. There's 3 units of Beastnaga boys. Anybody want to take bets on how many kill rigs are in the list? Oh, look, that 3 kill rigs, crazy. Yeah, this is an orc list. Good stuff. Not too much exciting going on there. A little bit of an interesting Azure Yanni build from Dan Bates here. Running Masterful Shots, so ignore combo, and Vengeful, so the exploding 6s in melee. So a little bit of a what's the word? Like a mixed bag. You're well-rounded, I guess. 2 individual Skyrunners, one with Sunstorm. Or just Warlocks. One's not a Skyrunner, excuse me. Farseer, A Farseer Skyrunner. No Kurnos Bow. What is happening these days? What is the world coming to, chat? There's no Kurnos Bow combo Farseer. And then Behareth, of course. 3 units of Dire Avengers. 2 of 7, 1 of 9. Interesting. 2 units of Howling Banshees. 1 unit of Striking Scorpions. All the normal stuff on them. Crushing Blows on the Striking Scorpions. 1 Piercing Strikes. 1 Nerve Striking Shriek and Crun Scream. 1 Shining Spears with Kane's Lance, Paragon Saber, Heartstrike. Swooping Hawks. Amazing. So, yeah, Swooping Hawks with Ignore Cover are pretty solid. If you're a 3+ save, you don't get the bonus down to a 2+, and Swooping Hawks actually kind of tear you a new one. 5 Shroud Runners in the list. Whoa. And I guess it's the same for Shroud Runners too. If you're not a base 2+ save, then the Scatter Laser just like eat you up if you're even if you're in cover. 2 Wave Serpents. So these are just standard Wave Serpents, not Falcons. So they have the big carrying capacity. So you can put like double Banshees in a Wave Serpent. And then you get the 3-inch Disembark, potentially 6-inch Advance, and an auto 6 charge with the Strands of Fate. Single support weapon decanted platform, as I think is required. I think the FBI comes to your house if you run an Eldar list with no decanted platform in it. This list is cool. It's mostly the normal Eldar stuff, but it's kind of in a different orientation than you would normally expect. Because we're running these Wave Serpents, and we're like focusing more heavily on the combination of melee and range. And I wonder if this is a list that just like locks in Wrath of Khaine every single game, where it's trying to get kills in both melee and range with Aspect Warriors. And given that outside the Shroud Runners and the tanks, every single unit is an Aspect Warrior for the most part. And it all has benefits both in melee and range. Very cool. Bethany Taylor. I like the top 2 of the event here. Team Stonehammer presents the 36 Chambers, because it's kind of like a T5ST Season 2 throwback. Bethany Tabor and Chris Kinnair Barb, I believe, both played in that event. Oh, another Tzeentch list. Oh my god. Okay. No Lord of Change this time. We have a Change Caster, Demon Prince of Chaos, and a Fate Skimmer. 3 units of Horrors, 2 of Pinks, 1 of Blues. 3 units of Flamers. We're down to 17 this time, not the full 19. And then the Exalted. So single Exalted, we still have the triple Burning Chariots, and big units of Screamers instead of the small ones. That's interesting. There's a lot more Pink Horrors than I expected. But I think like once you get all of the buffs active on the Pink Horrors, because you're kind of leaning on the +1 ballistic skill, you're really trying to get all of the damage buffs on them. They actually hit pretty hard. So they can contribute some damage. They're not just objective holders. I think it was the other Tzeentch, pure Tzeentch list that we talked about. I think it was a weakness of that list that it has absolutely no objective secured. It's not that it's minimal objective secured or it's relying on characters or something. It literally did not have a single objective secured model in it, and this one has 20. So that is an astronomical improvement on its ability to hold objectives. And then Chris Kinnair over here with Necrons. We're on Nylock, so the new evolution of that. The link is in the video description, chat. If you just look down a little bit. The new evolution of the Obsec Dynasty. Not running the custom Dynasty stuff. 3 Plasma Sites. Is this... Yeah. Just regular Nylock. A Locust Lord. Whoa, okay. And Trazen the Infinite. Okay, alright. So Veil of Darkness, Technomancer, normal stuff. A Locust Lord with a Voltaic Staff. And Trazen with Enduring Will. We have the Hexmark Destroyer. This guy's super common now that basically everyone and your mom is strategic preserving stuff in. So he can just hopefully Etheric Intercept and trade for a unit when they come in. 18 Scorpic Destroyers, 2 units of 6 Scarab Swarms. We haven't had any AdMech yet, unfortunately, chat. Which is a little bit... Are there any? It's a little It's a little light on Adeptus Mechanicus. They're not, like, doing terribly. I think they're at a 50%, right? So it's kind of weird that there isn't any. No Tyranids, though, chat. There's no Tyranids today. It's very sad. But that's to be expected. I think... So, I mean, we'll have to see once the stats from this weekend come in. But I think the Tyranids are sort of, like, inarguably the worst army in the game. Just given the fact that we have the armies that are underperforming already and they have a lot of X and 1 placements. And Tyranids have had, like maybe 2. Like, in Arks of Omen, full stop, which is very sad. Anyway. Some Scarab Storms, some Tomb Blades, a bunch of stuff to do. Secondaries, a single Night Scythe, and 2 units of Locust Destroyers with 2 heavies. So the Night Scythe can teleport stuff in on the first turn, right? That's the technology. I believe you can strategic reserve things in off the Night Scythe is the stratagem. Yeah, you can select a core unit from your army in strategic reserve, set it up wholly within 3 inches of a Night Scythe for 1 CP. So because we can strategic reserve for free, that only costs you a single command point to bring stuff in, and that's in your reinforcement step, and you can do it on the first turn. So the Night Scythe can just like start and then run into your opponent's side of the table and then go get them. So that's pretty cool. The other benefit is that it's anywhere outside engagement. So you can also, I guess, strategic. Yeah, I guess you don't. The Night Scythe's in reserve, but you reserve the Night Scythe in, and then you rush in Nesting Doll, the unit inside the Night Scythe, out immediately. So it's like a drop pod that can't be screened. You're 9 inches away from the Night Scythe and wholly within 3, or no, the Night Scythe's 9 inches away from enemies, and you're wholly within 3, so you're 6 inches away from them. So you're still looking for a 6-inch charge if you're coming out, but it is a good way to deliver a Scorpic Destroyer unit or a Locust Destroyer unit that you can't screen. Now I did play against a player, and this was like in Nephilim, so it was you didn't have to keep the Night Scythe in reserve, but I believe that he did have trouble dropping the 50 mil bases in because the Scorpics are so physically large that it's difficult to put them down, and it can be like sort of theoretically sort of screened out. It's a little bit weird. But I think if you're placing the Night Scythe wherever you want to, it's actually not that big of a deal. That's really cool. Maybe all AdMech players are waiting to see somebody bring a playable list. Yeah, nobody knows what's good now. AdMech has changed like dramatically. Not only have they been rebalanced multiple times, and then the formats changed, and then the metas changed, but then also like they lost all their old armies of renown. So like all the armies, the compositions that you're used to playing in AdMech are like no longer legal. What would I say is the most feel-bad thing to play into in Arks of Omen? If I'm playing Tyranids, like any list, like any other faction. I don't know what the most feel-bad thing is. I probably like, I think like Marines with like max land speeders just like sucks really hard because each one of them is like 60 points. They're like, they take more than 60 points worth of effort to kill. And they're fast enough that they just like they don't have to stage at all. They're just out of line of sight blockers and then in melter range of you, and you're like, okay. There's basically no way to prevent them from just destroying you immediately as soon as they go. And if they go first, you just lose the game. It sucks. Ugh. I could see Orcs too. Orcs might be the other one. I tend to very much dislike like the turn 1 and win sort of matchups. So I think that's probably the other. The most tilted I think I've ever been at 40k has been the matchups where you just like you lose the roll off and you're just like, the game's over. Like, we can pack up, I guess. And even if it's not like they kill you immediately, even if they just like get a dominating board position, there's nothing you can do about it. That just frustrates me to no end. So I think like Orcs and like Space Marines both do that right now. And actually a lot of armies do it. Like every army has turn 1 deep strikes currently. Every Imperium army can literally just bring turn 1 deep strikes in. And then you just bring knights that reserve on the first turn. It's very frustrating. How does Grey Knight list look like right now? Just full baby carriers? Yeah, currently that is what we can look at a one real quick. A little bit out of order here. See what they have today. Castle and Crow, Brother Tech Marine Librarian. So yeah, 1 Dread Knight, 3 more Dread Knights. Yeah, usually you're at 3 to 4 Dread Knights and then max Interceptors, and then the rest of the list is kind of like salt to taste. Which is unfortunate. I think Nemesis Dread Knights are like the least interesting unit in Grey Knights, but they're kind of like, they're like sort of propping up the faction. I guess it's them and Interceptors. Interceptors are extremely strong. I would say maybe individually almost too strong. Nemesis Dread Knights are just boring, in my opinion, but that's what it is. I mean, that list is pretty decent. So there you go. Express your brother in so you get the reroll strat. You can give them all Obsec with Unyielding Anvil. There it is. Good stuff. Normal Grey Knight stuff. I think we've talked about it a million times before. Are Nurgle only armies viable? Outside of like Death Guard? It's but I think there's potential. There was a list at the end of Nephilim that was like a T9 skew, where it was basically like triple Great Unclean Ones and triple Soul Grinders. And that list just got easier to build because you don't have to build it into battalions and stuff in Arks of Omen. So I think that you could try that list. I don't know if it's the greatest thing ever, but I do think that it's like, I mean, it's real gatekeeper energy, right? Because like half the armies in the game just can't deal with that amount of toughness 9 with a demonic invulnerability. So you just like fall apart and kind of die. No Dark Eldar. Yeah, not this week. It looks like. I think we had some the last time we went over lists, but Dark Eldar are pretty weird right now. They're kind of in a big, who knows where they're going. Anyway, let's move on. We got some Ynnari to talk about. This list is Azuriani, but it should be Ynnari. This is mostly a Ynnari list, I guess. So it's kind of normal Eldar stuff. A Farseer Skyrunner, Mark of the Incomparable Hunter, Kurnos Bow, good stuff. Do a bunch of mortal wounds. Shadow Seer, Mirror Mine, Stars of Light, good stuff. Do more mortal wounds. The Incarn, Teleporter on the table. 2 units of Rangers, kind of required for Ynnari, honestly. 2 Harlequin troops. These ones are, it's interesting that how differently Harlequin troops operate in Ynnari versus regular Harlequins, because they have the same, the same level of damage output. Occasionally they get +1 to hit if they've lost any models on the way in. Sometimes you get Overwatch and you lose a model and then the whole unit gets like a damage buff, which is funny. But they're much more of a hammer unit in Ynnari, I guess, because Ynnari having access to all of the Craftworld stuff doesn't really need like troops in transports to fill in that fusion pistol damage. They can do that elsewhere with D cannons and with psychic powers and stuff that Ynnari or that Harlequins proper don't have access to. And so they feel like they play much more to like a Harlequin. They feel much stronger, I guess, in Ynnari. Is what I'm trying to say. Mostly because they're 10 model units that get all supercharged with buffs. They also get ambush of blades usually, which I don't think we're running, but occasionally you do, and that's really strong. Just kidding. It's right here. Nailed it. We have 2 units of Howling Banshees, all the normal Howling Banshee stuff, normal Striking Scorpion stuff, 2 Shroud Runners, 1 Shining Spear, 1 Decan Platform, unit, and 1 Warwalker. This is sort of normal. Good stuff. Oh yeah, +1 to wound spell also, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, the +1 to wound, +1 AP, situational +1 to hit, and then you drop all the strats on them. All right, chat. Everybody's asking about the death card. We can look at the death card. All the death card games are streamed over on War Games Live, so go check them out. I think a bunch of them went to time, which was unfortunate. I guess there is that. But if you want to watch Death Guard, do Death Guard stuff, then you can go watch them on War Games Live. Highly recommend you do check those games out. So we are in Ferryman. And I believe that the pilot is in the chat room, right? Noah, you're in there. I see your name in the chat. So if you have any particular insights you wanna contribute, go ahead and throw them in. But the big thing for Ferryman is that we can pay 1 CP to extend aura abilities in your command phase on your Fetid Virion, which includes your Foul Blight spawn. So you can push out the Revolting Stench Vat that the Foul Blight spawn has to reduce your to count you as not charging, and theoretically you also reduce the range of his Fight Last ability, although that's up to contention because the aura ability rules are worded very poorly in 40k. So I think ask your TO about that one. Yeah, it's because it's just literally is just aura abilities. We got Typhus in there. That's kind of cool. And then a bunch of Plague Marine units. So they get all the free weapons on the Plague Marines. So, points per model. Their damage output's actually pretty extreme on these little guys. Especially since this list, unlike a lot of the lists we're talking about, this list is mass objective secured between the Plague Marines and the big Blight Lord Terminator squad. Calm down. Oh, it is 1 aura ability? Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't choose the other one. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be like using it defensively, but then you'd get your small anti-charge aura, so that's whatever, I guess. Cool. We have a Biologist Preacher Fire to Caddy Arch Contaminator. Mostly for wound rerolls in melee. So once you get stuck in with the Blightlord Terminators or the Plague Marine units, they just want to dominate the mid board and basically make it so they're like you can't engage profitably into them with melee units because you first get the Foul Blight spawn, tells you didn't charge, tells you fight last, so you don't even go simultaneous with the other units in the melee. And then a bunch of Blightlord Terminators with a ton of rerolls beat you to death, basically. And then they have tons of Blight Launchers as well, so they also do reasonable damage and then free combis. So they do reasonable damage at shooting. It's not like the most exciting thing in the world, but they can sit in the middle of the table and pick at you. And then that also is you're sort of incentivized to come engage because the Plague Burst Crawlers will continue to do damage with you. And if you don't want to sit there and just get peppered to death, you do have to come in and engage with the Plague Marines and stuff, and in which case if you can't hit them super duper hard, probably lose because they will most likely beat you in melee. Especially if the Plague Caster over here gets all his buffs off. So if he's Miasmud and Vitality, where -1 to be hit, +1 toughness. And then obviously they're built-in -1 damage and all of the melee defensive effects that the Foul Blight spawn gives you. So it's kind of a big brick of dudes. There's a little bit of utility in there. We have a Rhino that we can use to deliver the Plague Marine squads. Please don't steal my models, Cat. Thank you. I need those. This is what I get for painting models. I have models on my desk, and so the cat's like, those belong to me now. And then the Bloat Drone that you can use to heroically intervene with. So it's very good at sort of contesting enemy objectives or standing on objectives, and if enemies contest it, the blow turn gets an opportunity to try to kill them with the 6-inch intervene that they can do. Chaos Spawner, good utility. And there it is. Pretty straightforward stuff. Ta-da! Good stuff, yeah. Yeah, I think Death Guard, I know I picked him out as being kind of low tier, and a lot of other people were of that opinion. But Death Guard are doing pretty okay at this point. I'm not going to say that they're like the best faction in the game, but I think they're around the 50% mark. Certainly better than like Blood Angels, which I did not expect after Blood Angels did so much at the end of Nephilim. But losing so many secondary objectives for them was huge. Whereas Death Guard is so sort of trucking along. And I think despite the fact that they lost Armor of Contempt, they also benefit from everyone else's lack of Armor of Contempt. And they benefit from a lot of the armies in the game being these like really, really tanky brick style, where all they want to do is fight you in the middle of the table with like 20 Terminators. And Death Guard might be one of the best armies in the game at taking that fight. So if you're you know, Dark Angels Terminators get mixed up with a bunch of Blightlord Terminators, and suddenly they lose Shock Assault, and they're have a bunch of hit penalties on them, and they don't charge, and they get hit by the Blightlord Terminators first, who are already winning them on 4s, and then get full wound rerolls from Arch Contaminator, and dump a billion mortal wounds into you with the Plague Caster, and they have a Plague Skull. You could just get vaporized. So I can understand it. We also have Genestealer Cult here. So I mentioned this Genestealer Cult list recently. This is sort of the other GSC build running Twisted Helix rather than the Myriad Cult. The finals game of this event with Robin was also streamed over on Wargames Live, and I streamed, I believe, this list at Everwinter. So there's a couple different places you can go watch this list play. But this is sort of the opposite build of the one I was just talking about that had the neophytes in it. So instead of running the Stalwart, Industrial Affinity, War Convoy stuff, we're +1 strength, +1 movement, thanks to Twisted Helix. And then you can sort of wombo combo that out with the rapid advance on the Pure Strain Genestealer. So their move 8 base, go to move 9 with Twisted Helix. You can auto 60 their advance roll, so they move 15. If you are coming from below, they get the pre-game move, so another 9-inch move, if I remember correctly, at the start of the game. So they're moving like 24 and then charging. If you have the Exacting Planner on the Primus, he can pop in on the first turn and once per game give his rerolls to anything. Doesn't have to be core keyworded. So he can grant it to the Genestealers the turn that they hit. And then the other 2 units are chilling in the Goliath trucks. So you can sort of, you like 1-2 punch. The first one comes in, sets itself up in the middle of the table, hits you either top or bottom of 1. Did you just throw that in the garbage can? Why are you throwing my models away? And then the other 2 units are sort of waiting in the wings to push past the midboard, something in the center, in the Goliath trucks, which can deploy as aggressively as they want to, as long as they're out of range, thanks to Cult Ambush. Literally no Tyranid lists, chat. Tyranid's unplayable garbage now, so we don't have any Tyranid lists to talk about. Although, I mean, technically, to be fair, all the GSC stuff is Tyranid keyworded, so there you go. If you want to use your Genestealers, just play Genestealer Cult and use them as pure strains. Did it. We found a way. Yeah. Anyway, that's a GSC list. Good stuff. We're going to be seeing a lot more of these, I think, in the coming weeks. As we've already started to be seeing more recently. Nurglemania. How come you didn't play at Nurglemania? My guy. Playing Death Guard, not at this event? What? This is relatively small. I think this is only about 20 players. So we had a 4-0-1 with Adeptus Custodians. Emperor's Chosen. So we're in the third Custodians list and the third Shield host today. This, which is kind of cool. Custodians are still finding their feet. And this is a very different build, actually. So Custodians have a lot of different, I guess, very effective builds available to them. Running a Dawn Eagle Captain Shield, or Dawn Eagle Shield Captain. Auric Exemplar, Tip of the Spear, so we get the doubled swings with Superior Creation, with Trajan, 2 units of individual Ars Custodians. The Venatari are back! 6 Venatari with Lances, 9 Virtus Praetors with Salvos, and 2 Caladius Grav Tanks. This feels like, this is bringing me back. This feels like a Knockmund list. It's been a while, Caladius Grav Tanks, but it's nice to see them back with Iliastus Accelerator Cannons. Get those Blaze Cannons out of here, man. Those things are so spiky. I like the Accelerator Cannon. Real nice marine killing firepower from that thing. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the Venatari. I mean, clearly the Venatari are sweet. As we're, I'm very quickly being awakened to these Venatari. You know, not being a Custodians player myself. I hadn't really considered the depth of the bench, but the Venatari Custodians are the melee Venatari Custodians are very good. Obviously, we've seen the Kinetic Destroyers in the past as being really strong, but these guys are sick. The Lance guys are super cool. Now that they're objective secured specifically. Yeah, good stuff. We got a bunch of small units. We get that floating reroll from Emperor's Chosen. We're supported against mortal wounds. It all seems pretty good. Blaze Cannon's good into Iron Hands and Guard. They're good at, I guess it depends on the style of Iron Hands, right? If they're running like the land speeder or like more infantry focused Iron Hands, I think you want the high volume stuff for sure. If do Grav Tanks have a Misericordia? I don't believe they do, Chad. I think that would be like a drive me closer. I want to hit them with my Misericordia kind of situation. The dude like pops the top out. It's like, have at thee! How dare you engage my tank in melee? Some Azure Yanni to talk about. Hail of Doom making a comeback. I think we're mostly going to see normal stuff. We do see a little Karandras action. Do you mind, Dinky? Jesus Christ. I will do whatever you want in a sec. She wants her TV on. She just woke up and she wants to watch a movie, I bet. We do have the Kurnos Boat, Incomparable Hunter combo on a Fairseer Skyrunner. 30 Dire Avengers, teams of Howling Banshees, some Swooping Hawks, some Shining Spears, some Shroud Runners. I feel like this, this right here is automatically added to your list when you start building a list in Battlescribe. The rest is sort of float, but this is like, what, 420, 530, 640, 745, like 950 points is just like set for you. There's like 3 units of Dire Avengers between 6 and 10 models. The 2 Howling Banshees, the Striking Scorpions, the Shining Spears, the Shroud Runners. Done. That's it. And then you get to play with the rest of your list. And the Farseer is probably built in anyway. But we do have Karandras there. He's cool. He can forward deploy and hits pretty hard, and he's objective secured. And gives it to the Striking Scorpions. So you can sort of 1-2 punch an objective down between those two. Some Rangers. A bunch of Warlocks. Big Skyrunner console. Yeah. Which is actually kind of useful because they do all have, being on bikes, they do actually shoot pretty good. So they, in addition to casting a bunch of psychic powers, will also just Hail of Doom somebody down. Redemptors, Gladiators, and Storm Speeder lists. Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the lists, but I think the problem with Iron Hands right now, at least for me, is that they can play so many things. Like there's already, I mean, let's take a look at this Iron Hands. Let's see, what do we got? So this one's running like, it's double Estrellas, first of all. We're kind of off the rails already. But it's, I mean, it's triple Suppressor, double Devastator, double Eliminator squads, right? So like, you want to shoot Blaze Cannons at that? Like, not really. Kind of real MSU energy. The Estrellas you would certainly want to shoot a Blaze Cannon at, though, to be fair. So that list is interesting. We'll save that one for a moment, real quick. We'll talk about some Space Wolves first. Nymerio Stark. This is just a Game of Thrones reference, right? There's no way that's that person's actual name, right? Because Nymeria was the name of the dog, the wolfie that Aya had. I'm a nerd. What a nerd this guy is. Jesus Christ. I guess it is a Space Wolf army, right? So, all right. I get it. We are running Born Heroes Whirlwind of Rage, normal stuff. A Primaris Chaplain, Armor of Rust on that guy on a bike. A Thunderwolf Lord, oh boy. Resolve of the Bear. So 6 damage ignore becomes an aura as soon as you make a save. Unfortunately, he's got the 4+ vulnerable, so that's pretty good. Thunderhammer and Pelt of the Beowulf. Oh my god. We're cutting deep already. Hot damn. Yeah, it's not even one Astreus. I think one Astreus is like legitimately playable. 2 Astreus is like we're off the rails already. Because you can't even Ironstone the second Astreus. Like, what do you do with it? It just sits there and you get shot by laser beams? Like, I don't know. But I also don't know that many lists that kills 2 Astreus and then doesn't get vaporized in return. Like, the damage output of an Iron Hands Astreus is some of the highest in the game for a single model. Single entity unit. It's insane. So Pelt of the Beowulf. -1 to be hit and wounded. Jesus. Don't you want that guy to make a save for Resolve of the Bear? They're never going to get there. You're like T5, -1 to hit and wound? What a tank. He's just running a Thunderhammer, but he doesn't get the +1 to hit, so he on the first turn round of combat, so he ignores the penalty. Or on the charge, excuse me, for Born Heroes. 2 units of Infiltrators. A 6 model Aggressor Squad. With Flamestorm Gauntlets. Oh, no, only 5 models. Judiciar. With Saga of the Hunter. So we have 2 instances of Fight Last between him and the Armor of Rust. 3 units of Wolfguard with Combi Meltas. That's a lot of Combi Meltas. Okay. Hello. Interestingly, there isn't a hunter in this list, right? Oh yeah, there is. Just this guy. Yeah. But he's not very fast, so it's a little bit tough to get the aura active, to get the advancing charge in the wolf guard, but it's probably fine if a lot of wolf Space Wolves right now are just deep striking Meltas next to you. That's like the whole game plan. And then hoping for the best. 2 units of Wolfen. Now there is a little bit of an interesting interaction with Wolfen. Because Wolfen they have savage killers, so they are always they always consider the assault doctrine to be active, which means if you take Codex Warfare with this army, the Wolfen will actually score it before you move to assault doctrine, which is really cool. Let's see. We have Cyberwolf, 2 units of Thunderwolf Cavalry to go with that Thunderwolf Lord. We're playing for the theme here. Storm Shields and Thunderhammers and Lightning Claws on those guys. 1 Eradicator Squad, probably just to reserve off the side. Heavy Melter Rifles on them because we can Keen Senses them. So we have a 1-2 combo here. Oh no, there's no drop pod. I was going to say we could drop pod the Grav Cannon team in, but they're just going to stand there. But Grav Cannons don't really need to drop pod in because they have such a long range anyway. Sometimes you see even Las Cannons on those guys. Hi, Inky. You want to hang out with chat? Yeah. Say hello to chat. So sometimes you even see like Las Cannons, but they're mostly just going to be chilling in the back and moving and shooting using Keen Senses to ignore the penalty. And then you can run in the Eradicators with the heavy weapons on round 2. I believe maybe this is old rules, chat. I'll double check for you. I believe that there is a FAQ that specifies that when you make an attack and consider a doctrine to be active, it considers that the doctrine to be active for the entire army until the attack is resolved. I don't know if that's been removed, but let me see if I can find it real quick here, chat. That could well have been removed, I guess, in one of the the many FAQ updates, but that was how the rule worked at one point. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, it's actually just in the wording of the ability chat. When you make an attack for a model in the unit, and specifically for the Wolfens, the Assault Doctrine is treated as being active for your army for the attack. So it just does work. Basically, like, Assault Doctrine turns on and off as long as you're rolling a Wolfen attack until the end of the attack sequence. Then you're good. I don't know if they unified all that wording, because I know it did get awkward. I think like Sanguinary Priests may have had a different wording, and it might be that was the FAQ was there to unify it for the units, the PDF supplement chapters versus the print supplement chapters. Let's look at some other options. Some other instances here. Yeah, so the Sanguinary Priest has a different wording. Oh man, a nightmare. So there says Assault Doctrine is considered to be active. If we look at the Wolfen says it's active for your army. Oh boy. I mean, I guess for your army is implied here. What is happening right now? Wahapedia's mass ads have been unfortunately destructive. Yeah, I guess the for your army is implied, right? Because it says if Devastator Doctrine or Tactical is active, then instead Assault Doctrine is considered to be active. So I don't think there's much of a leg to stand on that wouldn't work for Blood Angels as well. Yeah, I'm not sure why that wouldn't satisfy the conditions of the secondary chat. Somebody would have to explain that one to me. So yeah, so as long as you're resolving a Wolfen attack, for example, the Assault Doctrine becomes active until that attack is resolved. Codex Warfare goes back in time and checks what doctrine was active when you destroyed each unit. So if you punch somebody to death, unless there's like a weird sequencing thing I'm missing, if you punch somebody to death with a Wolfen, it goes back and checked that the Assault Doctrine was active when they're destroyed, and then you get points for it. Yeah, the inflict damage step is the end of the attack sequence. So the damage would be inflicted and the unit would be destroyed before the attack is over. I don't believe I'm missing anything here. Checked Instincts Awoken. I'll do that. That is Tempestus. Yeah, there you are. Oh, we're in Blood Angels. Oops. Instincts Awoken says, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, the Assault Doctrine is considered to be active instead of the current doctrine. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if there is there is an FAQ on this somewhere, because there certainly was an FAQ that unified that wording, and I wonder if they removed it at some point. The distinction between a doctrine being active, period, and being active for your army, I don't think really exists. Because doctrines, to my knowledge, don't do anything if they're not active for your army. Yeah, I mean, the wording's poor, right? So there is an effect that happens while a doctrine is active for your army. I guess the effect of the doctrine specifies active, but doesn't have the requirement that it's for your army. So I guess well, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a difference here, chat. I could see the argument for Instincts Awoken, which I should have opened in a new tab. I could see because it specifies that the Assault Doctrine is considered to be active, but it also specifies that it's active instead of the currently active doctrine. And the currently active doctrine is active for your whole army. So it just overlays, if your army is in Tactical Doctrine, now your army is in Assault Doctrine. I think it's kind of a stretch to say that that's not the same. The Sanguinary Priest wording, the activity for your army is implied because it is instead of Tactical or Devastator Doctrine being active for your army. What is the wording for adaptive tactics? Let's look at every single doctrine wording, chat. This is... Oh, we're bleeding viewers here. Everyone's excited by this discussion. Thanks, everyone in chat, questioning my rules. I appreciate you. I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'm fairly confident about this one. I think you scratched the fuck out of me. Ow. Yeah, so I think adaptive strategy would be the most questionable one. Because it does not specify... There's no implication that they're active for your army. It's basically just saying that you gain the benefits of all three doctrines. So I think that would be the one that you probably wouldn't score off of. But I believe all of the chapter-specific ones you would... is how I'd read that. Oh, is it the designer's note thing, chat? Detachment abilities confer additional bonuses whenever a roll allows you to gain the bonus of a particular doctrine, even if it's not active for the rest of your army. E.g., adaptive stratagem, it rule applies. Yeah. So that one, I think that one kind of supports my theory here, chat. That one specifies the adaptive strategy because adaptive strategy doesn't specify that the doctrine is active for your army. It specifies that it's only active for that unit. Every other instance that we've looked at either states out in pure text or implies that the doctrine becomes active for your army. There's just no instance outside of Codex Warfare that would be relevant, right? Like, a different unit gaining +1 AP on melee weapons while another unit is making an attack literally doesn't matter. I guess, like, you could... All right, ready? So you have a character in melee with a unit from Creations of Bile. You attack the Creations of Bile unit with a Wolfen, which turns on the Assault Doctrine. The Wolfen go to the Inflict Damage step. The damage is inflicted, and then the Creations of Bile unit makes an attack before it's removed. Oh, no, that's after the unit finishes making its attacks. You just don't remove them. Just kidding. I don't think there's any situation in which it would make sense. Maybe there's a fight on death somewhere that interrupts the normal attack sequence. And then you could fight on death with a Space Wolves character that is inside the attack sequence of a Wolfen unit. I think that would be the one instance. I don't know if any fight on deaths do that anymore. I think those have all been removed from the game, though. Zachary Crum, any mono Chaos God lists? Yeah, we talked about a bunch of them. Mostly Tzeentch. In fact, entirely Tzeentch. We've went through 2 Tzeentch lists so far. Anyway, that's a Space Wolves list. We got some Adepta Sororitas. Nice to see them. Still continuing to do stuff. This is, I think, mostly just Adepta Sororitas stuff. Ooh, we do have an Immolator. That's kind of interesting. Doctrine isn't... The Doctrine isn't actually active. It's only being treated as it's active. There's no difference, chat. If you only treat it as it's active but don't actually confer the benefits of it being active, then it doesn't do anything. I think that the treating as active terminology is to reinforce the temporary nature of it. Because yeah, there's no if treating as a doctrine didn't consider you to be in that doctrine, anything that was treated as a different thing in the entire game would just have no effect. Anyway, we're talking about some Adepta Sororitas now. We moved on. Wolfen score combat or score Codex Warfare when they kill somebody in melee, and I'll die on that hill. If you want to disagree with me, you can take it up with Games Workshop, and they can make an FAQ about it, which they won't. So, you know, there you go. Only Space Wolves get treats. I think it works for Sanguinary Priests also. That would be my opinion. That one's like, that's a little shakier, but it's certainly implied because it replaces an already active doctrine. Anyway, we have a Canoness. We have... Hey, Jasper XOR, got your TacticalTortoise objective markers? Charles says, you can calm down, buddy. It's okay. You're free to be wrong. That's fine. Triumph St. Catherine's in this list, which is cool. Generating mass miracle dice is very important for scoring Leap of Faith. So having a Triumph in there who continues to generate miracle dice, right? That's still how they work. That unit has gone in and out of fashion so often. It's okay. Yeah, so chat, this model is considered to have a wounds characteristic of 9 instead of 18, but it doesn't actually, right? So that doesn't do anything. You can still see through the screen. There you go. Yeah, where is miracles over here? So it does mortal wounds, gets sacred rites, and changes miracle dice to 6 and gains miracle dice thanks to the sensor. Yeah, so a lot of times we are jamming in as many miracle dice generation effects as we can in order to try to fish for 6s, basically. And then max out your leap of faith. And then on top of that, the sister secondaries are still sort of incredibly strong, and so they can sort of sit back and continuously score. 2 units of multi-meltas. We are in Bloody Rose, so the multi-meltas get the fire on death kind of deal with an immolator. Immolator, not a rhino, so can we pre-game move the immolator? I believe that we can, right? Somebody will... I've never seen it done on an immolator, but I don't know if that's the case, to use the Bloody Rose stratagem. Survey says... yeah, it's any transport, so that's cool. So if you're not, we have a 5-model Sister Repentia unit here, and 2 5-model Retributor squads. So either one of those can fit inside the immolator, and then you also get flamethrowers on people, so you can shoot them, which is pretty cute. A lot of times that Rhino ends up being like a pre-game move caddy, and puts up and pushes up into the midboard, and then just sort of falls back and holds an objective for the entire game. And so having heavy flamers sort of available to you makes a ton of sense, so that you can continue to contribute, because sometimes that Rhino is just like a big bodyguard for the rest of the game. We talked about this Grey Knights list already. Juan Diego Wendigo, playing a bunch of Nemesis Dread Knights. That one's kind of normal Grey Knight stuff, so we can skip that one a little bit. Yeah, the fact that Sororitas is sort of crammed into a single sub-faction does suck a little bit, but to be fair, like that's the unfortunate truth of supplements, where it turns out if you take a faction that's already pretty good and you jam it full of additional supplemental abilities, like it's the only played sub-faction for sure. Especially since Bloody Rose already is the it synergizes best with the Sororitas game plan, because you already want to be like trading 1-for-1 with enemies with your melee units, and Bloody Rose just make that the easiest for you. So they're like, here you go. And then also they give you a bunch of useful stratagems, and it's just like unfortunate. I think they were tankier builds before the Armor of Contempt change, but now that Sisters lost Armor of Contempt, and specifically Paragon Warsuits, I don't know how often you're going to see the robot nuns anymore, which is unfortunate, because that list was really interesting and cool. So this is moving on to the next what do you call it? The next tournament. We have some Eldar to talk about. Ulthway this time. We've really hit like both Eldar and Custodians are coming out the woodwork with every single sub-faction being represented. So we have our 5 up against mortals, floating wound reroll, and +1 to cast in the first psychic power. Or excuse me, they lost that and gained an additional Strands of Fate dice, right? Ulthway's really, really pushed. It's funny that I think it's interesting that Eldar ended up being this army of like custom Craftworlds, because the custom Craftworlds abilities are so strong. But Ulthway, when the Codex came out, it also gives +1 on the first psychic test. Damn, dude, this army has 4. The Warlord trait is an extra Strands of Fate die. They have 4 sub-faction abilities. This is like a Votann army. But it's weird that they've sort of been falling off the wayside a little bit here, just because of Hail of Doom and all the other sub-factions that are available to them. Yannari being so strong. So we have a Kurnos Bow Farseer, Eldrad, 3 into Dire Avengers, Striking Scorpions, 10 Wraithguard. Oh my god. we are off the beaten path already, chat. Whoa! So they do get a built-in 6-up invulnerable, thanks to Ulthway, which is useful. And the 5-up against mortals is huge for them. We're running Wraith Cannons on them, so the one-shot Strength 10, AP 4, D3 plus 3 damage, and they can fire in engagement range. Unfortunately, their other weapon, the D-Scythe, is a blast weapon, so they can't shoot it in melee, which is funny. But that doesn't matter so much if you're shooting just huge damage gunshots at people. So trying to hold down the midboard with that. Is there a Will of Azirian in this list? Oh, there is on Eldrad. Hell yeah. So we can make it objective secured. Yeah. And then just try to hold down the midboard with 30 wounds of Wraithguard at -1 damage, just shooting you for 1 billion damage every turn. Seems pretty good. They also can, big guns never tire, but they don't get -1 to hit with their heavy weapons. Or their weapons are assault even. They don't even get -1 to hit. They do lose battle focus, being a Wraith construct, so they can't advance and shoot without penalty, but they still have a pretty decent threat range. 10 Warp Spiders in this one with Web of Deceit, so we can pop them around. And then 6 D-Cannon support weapon platforms. Really trying to make use of that floating wound reroll on those support weapons. 3 Wind Riders with Shuriken Catapults. And some Shroud Runners. Plus Project Jinx, Warlock, Skyrunner. So we're going to Fortune them for the 5+ damage ignore, Protect for the +1 save, and then Will of Azirian for the Ubsac. And they're just going to try to hold the midboard. That's different and cool. I love that. Sick. We talked about this Iron Hands list already. This is double Estrellas in it, which is wild. Yeah, the raise contracts are pretty okay. They're not as lethal as the Aspect Warriors and stuff, and the Jet Bikes, but they are tanky as hell if you don't have lots of mortal wounds. And this list does have protection against mortal wounds. So we have a Twisted Helix list here, running Neophyte hybrids. A little bit of a combination of the other two lists we talked about. It has Rock Grinders instead of Goliath trucks. Triple Eidolon Jackals, only double Pure Strain Genestealers, and then a bunch of Neophyte hybrids. So we're sort of we're mixing the benefits of taking the normal subfaction and taking that Twisted Helix. I think the Twisted Helix is mostly going to benefit the Pure Strains, but it also helps those Acolytes, and it looks like we are running heavy Rock Drills in the Acolytes, so we are going to be trying to do some melee damage with them as well. Oh, this one also with Aberrants, too. So that's cool. Yeah, the Aberrants are, they're so low attack volume, it's a little bit wild. We can take a look at the Aberrant datasheet real quick. They try to be tough, but they're T5 with a crappy save. They're -1 damage against them, but only 3 wounds. Like, high volume mid AP damage is just going to rinse the unit down to nothing. And then they're like 2 attacks each with like +1 from an AP1 weapon. They're only 27 points, I guess. And they seem, it's a fine melee profile for 27 points, but you're really hoping that you charge out a Deep Strike. You get them to strength 7 with the Twisted Helix benefit, so that's fine. Or strength 9 with the heavy power weapon, but such few attacks. Doesn't seem too bad though. So this is unit of 6, or unit of 5, excuse me. It's only got 11 attacks. They don't have any like strats, right? You can give them +1 damage. Oh, you can give them -1 damage, excuse me, for +1 attack. For a CP, you basically like put them in the in Captaris. Is that the the kata that lets you get extra attacks for damage 1? Yeah, yeah, it's a little sad for sure. Still on 5-0 though, chat. maybe Aberrants are on their way back. I think Genestealer Cults are good enough at scoring in Arks of Omen that you can probably take the sort of mid-range melee stuff and be fine. What I wouldn't like to see is those Aberrants hit like a Dark Angels Terminator, right? They just bounce. They're not even +1 AP. They're AP 2 on their melee weapon, so they even put them on a 3+ save. You're winning on 4s, they're saving on 3s, and they ignore on 6s. You maybe kill 1, and then they crush your unit into a little tiny bloop bloop bloop. Yeah, you could Might from Beyond for sure. That certainly helps too. Last but certainly not least, Luke Townsend with some Chaos Demons. Interestingly, this is a mixed demons list. We have tons of troops. This is a really horde mode over here. Not worried about no prisoners today. We have 10 Flesh Hounds. It's 3 units of Flamers. More Flamers, chat. See, chat? Flamers are good. I don't think that's like a hot take or anything. I think that Flamers are just good enough that you'll just take a couple of them anyway. Especially with Be'lakor, because you can teleport them. 3 units of individual Beasts of Nurgle. That one's pretty cool. They're so good at holding down objectives because they have the 6-inch Heroically Intervene, and they can knock down units pretty quickly. And then just a ton of models to flood the midboard. So 30 Bloodletters, 20 Demonettes, 10 Pinkars, 10 Plague Bearers. This isn't... Wait, hold up. Is this Disciples? It sure looks like Disciples, chat, but it doesn't say that it is. I guess. Hold up. Doesn't Be'lakor have to be the Warlord? wait a minute. What's happening here? Oh, he doesn't have to be your Warlord because he's not a Supreme Command. That's what I'm thinking of. Sorry, chat. No, Be'lakor's fine. He's fine like that. He's okay. That is funny to have Be'lakor leading, like, in an army, but the actual Warlord is this little idiot Pinkar. He's the real mastermind behind the throne. Impossible robe on that Changecaster too. That's so funny. So a lot of times he just you assume that he'd die if he gets in melee, and you'd take the Endless Grimoire, but not today. This is so close to being a Disciples of Be'lakor list, chat. What is it missing? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Khorne, 4 Nurgle, 4 Tzeentch, only 2 Slaanesh. It needed to swap like Bloodletters for Demonettes, and I think it would be okay. Or you could no, you don't count Be'lakor for the restriction. You could almost. You're so close to Disciples of Be'lakor in this list. Interesting stuff. That's cool. None of the teleport cast went off. Yeah. It definitely... I haven't really felt good about Be'lakor ever since he didn't unlock your Tzeentch powers. It feels like, as much as everyone builds for the Khorne Warpstorm abilities, which I think are the easiest ones to unlock because of how good Bloodthirsters are, it feels like the Tzeentch ones are sort of core to how the faction operates. And losing those, because they're like... They translate directly to damage or delivering your units. So like you're spending Warpstorm power, your Warpstorm points basically just like to turn into damage in your opponent's army. It feels like such a, I don't know, it feels very important. And losing access to those, easy access to those from Be'lakor, not being able to unlock them with the Supreme Command and stuff, hasn't felt really good. And then the 6 on the Shrouded Step is just like, but awkward. So scary. Would Marine armies even want to take Codex Warfare? It seems really bad unless you're against a Horde army. I mean, it depends. there's a lot of like melee armies that don't actually want to like be in assault doctrine. So, you know, I think the Dark Angels list is a good example where like a lot of its frontline power is these like huge bricks of Thunderhammer Terminators, but you never actually want to be in assault doctrine with them. So you end up ticking up on your like random ranged attack kills. And it turns out like if you got 2 VPs, like, you know, 60% of the time you kill an enemy unit, you probably still max your objective. So it's usually fine. It depends on the list you build for sure. Thought Disciples of Be'lakor lost access to everything but Undivided. Well, they don't get any. There's no. You're already Undivided. So you're not unlocking Warp Storm abilities anyway. So I mean, I guess yes would be the answer. Yeah. Your Disciples of Be'lakor detachments have to be undivided, and this is already an undivided detachment. So you're not actually losing anything to switch it over, I don't believe. Unless there's an ability that I have forgotten. I don't know if it gives you too much. It gives you, like, the morale manipulations strat. And... it gives you the ability to walk through walls, which doesn't really matter. I guess let's decide. It lets Be'lakor charge through walls, which is kind of sweet. It gives you the thing where you heal off people when they take damage. And it lets you 0 an attack for 2 CP. That one's really good, actually. And I think the only restriction that we're missing is that you just have to take 2 units of an allegiance before you take another one. Which is the only thing that we're not getting. You could easily take, well, I guess, yeah. If you amalgamate the decent Nurgle unit, you could like swap some stuff for Nurglings, which are objective secured in that army. So, I mean, you could build it into a normal Disciples of Be'lakor list, and it would be fine. So, I don't know. It's mostly because we're already not taking Greater Demons in this list. But clearly, it went 5-0, so I didn't need it. You know, who needs it? Anyway, chat, sort of losing steam here. This has been a really long one. We keep getting sidetracked by rules discussions. So I'm going to go ahead and close things out before this video gets any longer. Thanks everyone for coming and for coming and hanging out. I'm going to be live tomorrow and Thursday over on the Twitchies. I got some games to play for competitions. I'm playing some Tyranids. Sad about Tyranids in these events. I do think, based on the results that we're seeing, where armies that are at the same win rate as Tyranids currently are doing okay, and Tyranids are not, and also have the worst win rate, I do think that the Tyranids are sort of unequivocally the worst army, which is interesting. So I'm going to try to squeak some wins out, but fortunately, there's no pressure if I lose, because I'm playing uphill. So, you know, yeah. Everything's fine. Yeah, anyway, thanks everyone. Remember to keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming. And don't forget to check out my video tomorrow, which I have spent a lot of time on. So I hope that you enjoy it. Oh, I hope that I treat the evening as good as well, chat. If I treat the evening as good, is it actually good? Or does it not do anything? You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, I'll see ya. Goodbye, everyone.